1,000 years ago, interdimensional rifts began to open on the Earth, from which evil spirits began to emerge. At that moment, under the light of the blood-red moon, the era of monsters began, and monsters began to mercilessly devastate the land. No human weapon could withstand these giants, and after 10 years, there were only 100 million people left on Earth. However, a ray of hope appeared. The master of the spirit beasts, and acquiring their own beast, gave people faith that they could win. With each new generation of masters developing their abilities, humanity gradually revived its civilization, and people began to have hope. However, Lin Yuan, the best of the resistance assassins, was killed. After which he moved to a dimension where monsters exist completely peacefully. He became the weakest E-rank beast spirit, a black lizard that could only bite and attack with its claws. A small dragon, Xiao Hei Long, appeared before the reincarnated one, saying that he would accompany him and watch over his development. Lin Yuan, hearing this, believes that he can become the best and reach the pinnacle of his cultivation. A little later, a plane with a golden body moves quickly across the sky, and inside it, someone is trying to contact the outside world via radio. The man sitting in the cabin reports that the target has been destroyed, and the first-class mercenary is praised for the speed of his work. Suddenly the plane starts shaking, and the man asks what is happening. The man on the phone calls a man named Wolf, and says that he has done a great job for the organization all these years, but he knows too much. The plane starts to explode, and the last thing the man hears is someone on the phone telling him to take all these secrets with him to the grave. Suddenly the wolf comes to his senses and jumps up on the spot, straightening up. For some time he tries to come to his senses and feels his body, not understanding what is happening. The man thinks that he died from the explosion, and therefore what is happening seems very strange to him. The wolf suddenly grabs his head, which begins to hurt sharply, and thinks that something has damaged his brain. From the unbearable pain, he suddenly leans forward and loudly hits his forehead on the metal. 1,000 years ago, when a blood-red moon shone in the sky, spatial portals opened everywhere. The age of monsters began on Earth, and monsters began to mercilessly destroy everything they laid eyes on. Human weapons were completely useless in the fight against these monsters, and soon the entire human race was in danger of extinction. However, gradually people began to gain the power of spirits, one after another, gaining the ability to fight the enemy. With each subsequent generation of beast soul masters, people inherited and developed their skills, and humanity successfully created a new civilization. Each awakened had their own skill level, from the weakest E rank to the most advanced SSS rank, and Lin Yuan had attained the lowest rank. He has no family or friends, he must rely only on his beast soul, and he himself is constantly mocked. He is just a piece of trash that the world throws away and humiliates whenever they want. At this time, the wolf thinks that God took pity on him, so he moved here after death. He turns to the prone Lin Yuan, saying that they are alike and the boy was simply betrayed. Getting closer to the boy's face, the wolf says that he can just leave this cruel world to him. Lin Yuan initially objects, and then Wolf calls him a pathetic kid who took over his body. He says that there is no point in the guy continuing to live, because only new betrayals await him. Now the wolf wants to live by his own rules, because it hurt him that he could not choose. However, the young man warns him that he will eventually end up like him. But the wolf is adamant and promises that he will prove that even a scumbag can reach the top, and show that his destiny is in his hands. In response to this, Lin Yuan only remains silent for a while, observing his own body. He calls the dead man strange and then touches his forehead with his finger. After this, he tells Wolf to keep his word, because from this day on, he will live the life of Lin Yuan. Finally, the man gains the ability to move, which surprises him. Rising from the ground, he asks the departed ghost not to worry, because he will fulfill his promise. However, becoming stronger in this world is not that easy, as the owners of E-rank beasts only do miserable work. At any moment, the man can return to his previous job as a hired killer. A man hears someone's voice, which informs him that he has heard the system of evolution of animals. Lin Yuan wonders out loud what it is, and at that moment, a small creature appears in front of him. The creature introduces itself as Xiao Hei Long, saying that from now on it will accompany him and watch over his growth of power. The little dragon enthusiastically says that he is now his beast, and they will definitely get along. However, Lin Yuan begins to walk away, not even bothering to ask how the creature could help him. The man tells Xiao Hei Long that he has a much more important matter to attend to right now. At this time, someone approaches the girl named Sumu Shui, asking if she will run away again. She looks condescendingly at her interlocutor, folding her hands together. A guy with golden hair asks Su out, clutching a luxurious bouquet in his hands. The man says that he knows the girl has an S-rank beast that she was unable to awaken, and he found a couple of B-rank creatures, so he thinks he deserves attention. After this, the man grins and says that he gave some scum a beating. The girl sharply asks what he did to Lin Yuan, to which the young man replies that he was too arrogant to dare to cross his path. According to him, now they are left alone, and she has no choice but to date him. Suddenly, someone rushes past all the man's wards who were standing behind him. A black silhouette appears right behind the guy who was trying to start a relationship with Sumu Shui. He grabs the man by the throat with all his might, forcing him to shut up. The attacker turns out to be the wolf, who was reborn in Lin Yuan's body. This appearance surprises both the girl and the impudent man who tried to force her into a relationship. Suddenly, a whole crowd of bodyguards attacks the main character. He manages to avoid the collision without any difficulty by jumping away. The young man lands a few meters away from the group, greatly surprising people. And the guy who was trying to get to the girl loses his balance and falls face down on the floor. Out of anger, he orders his bodyguards to kill the young man, and they decide to use transformation. They instantly begin to turn into some kind of monsters, ready for battle. However, Lin Yuan looked at the beasts, and the first thing he thought about was whether he could do the same. Xiaohei Lunu says that the protagonist's beast is a common lizard, and that points can be obtained by winning battles and absorbing others. But when the man says he wants to try not to turn into a monster, the little dragon thinks he's crazy. If he transforms, he will die an even quicker death than he died before in real life. At this moment, one of the transformed monsters finally attacks the man. Lin Yuan, standing below, does not move at all at first, despite the threat. There is a loud sound, and a bright yellow light begins to tear apart the space around. The self-confident young man whispers that his bodyguards will tear the main character to pieces. A thin layer of smoke rises above the area that has become a battlefield, limiting visibility. Lin Yuan at this moment rushes to the side, dodging the enemy's attack. He deftly jumps onto the neck of one of the animals, wrapping his legs and arms around it. Even though he is in human form, his gaze shows animal cruelty and hatred. He quickly turns his arms to the side and then lowers himself to the ground. The body of a B-rank monster that the man had defeated with his bare hands falls loudly next to him. Sumu Shui, who had been standing to the side all this time, looked at all this with surprised eyes. Sinking slightly to the ground, Lin Yuan was glad that his skills had not disappeared. A few seconds later, Xiaohei Longwu announces that the man has managed to defeat the beast, and therefore he is entitled to an iron chest. According to the creature, the chest may contain useful items, such as super equipment or skill upgrade points. Lin Yuan slowly puts his hand forward and commands the chest to open. The dragon informs that he has received a random skill book, and now he can master new abilities. A second later, the young man touches a small blue panel, gaining a new skill. He gets an A-rank skill called Firelight, which can even melt steel. The companion enthusiastically states that the burning temperature of this skill is over 100,000 degrees Celsius. The chance of getting an A-rank skill is extremely low, so the protagonist can be considered lucky. However, now is not the time to celebrate his victory, because the enemy is still threatening the guy. The impudent man gives an order, and all the monsters immediately rush towards the main character. Sumu Shui, coming closer, says that she can help and summon her own beast, but the protagonist tells her to leave, as there is no need for that. However, a large beast rushed straight at Lin Yuan, waving its limb. The young man dexterously dodges each of the attacks, remaining unharmed. He suddenly jumps closer and grabs the huge trunk with his hands. After this, the guy suddenly and quickly strikes the beast's head with his palm. He kicks the transformed brute with all his might, pushing him away. The force from such a blow is more than enough to slam the creature into the wall. Having defeated another monster, the protagonist receives another chest of black iron. Feeling confident, Lin Yuan starts running forward, straight towards the remaining beasts. The transformed thugs exchange glances and say that the man is moving too fast. In an instant, the protagonist jumps up to the two animals and smashes their heads together. The man watching this throws his hands up in the air, not believing that this could happen. As soon as Lin Yuan approaches him, he begins to beg him for mercy. However, in response, the guy says that it is too late to ask for anything. A second later, loud screams and crashes are heard throughout the area. The girl, watching this from the side, thinks about how strong the young man is, and he says out loud that it's time to leave. Looking back at the man lying on the ground, the girl assumes that he will not bother her again. However, she feels a strong sense of shame, because she is the S rank, and she is the one who should protect him. And she didn't think that Lin Yuan was so strong. Turning to the side, the guy asks why the girl is looking at him so intently. She gets a little embarrassed and says that everything is fine, avoiding the answer. Shifting her gaze slightly to the side, she says that she wants to thank the protagonist for saving her. Lin Yuan tells Sumu Shui that they are classmates and should help each other, which hurts the girl a little. However, she waves at the protagonist several times with a forced smile, saying goodbye to him and saying that she will see him at school tomorrow. The main character thinks out loud that he will have to protect this girl, because she used to be friends with the previous owner of this body. At this time, Sumu Shui herself walked away, clasping her hands on her chest. Turning to Xiaohei Long, the man says it's time to talk about their business. After some time, he returns home and shouts to announce the activation of the beast's soul. A large amount of blue energy begins to hover around him, which transforms into a certain silhouette. Seeing the result of the protagonist's transformation, the companion begins to laugh, because in the world of monsters, he is drawn to a light snack. Lin Yuan looks at his new body carefully, understanding why his beast soul was called trash. Xiao Heilong asks if the man needs advice, and he tells him to speak. According to the creature, a person can absorb and earn exaltation points and use them to strengthen, and he has already received new points from the chest. Lin Yuan then asks what the beast means by absorbing. After that, Xiao Heilong points his small hand somewhere to the side. It turns out that he is pointing at the refrigerator, and the main character does not understand at all what is going on. But animals in this world, just like in the real one, need to eat a lot of protein to keep themselves in shape. When a plate of chicken appears in front of Lin Yuan, he stares at it for a short while. The companion encourages the protagonist to eat the food quickly in order to become stronger. It doesn't take long for the lizard to devour fresh chicken meat, and he eats it to the point of satiety. In this simple way, the transformed youth receives as many as 5 exaltation points. The first thing Lin Yuan decides to do is use the points he received to grow up. His blue body suddenly begins to increase in size, becoming larger. Then he announces in an excited voice that he will throw a meat party because he needs to eat more. The next day, after 100 wild rabbits, Lin Yuan's soul beast becomes much larger and stronger. He didn't expect that not only the level would increase, but also the talent. Even though the main character is no longer so insignificant, he still needs more points, and then he will need a secluded place so as not to attract attention. At that moment, the young man squeezes the pen in his palm with force, hitting it on the table. Since he managed to be reborn, he promises himself to get out of this world. Suddenly, several classmates approach him with grins on their faces. Lin Yuan recognizes one of them as Li Feng, who bullied the previous owner of the body with Zhang Lei. They are acting like this because they have Wu Mo Xuan, the master of one of the 2 S-rank soul beasts in their school, with them. One of them starts yelling at the main character, calling him trash. However, the young man only menacingly replies that they should leave him alone, and leave him alone. At that moment, his fingers clench in anger, breaking the pen into several pieces. Several rude disciples came closer, not believing that Lin Yuan had told them this. Wu Munxuan calls the protagonist the weakest beast soul, saying that he can finish off his lizard in a second. He says that if he were in the protagonist's place, he would have died of shame long ago, to which the protagonist replies that he has other plans. This infuriates the owner of the S-rank beast soul, to which he says that he will make the upstart change his mind. However, Lin Yuan doesn't take this threat seriously, telling him to give it a try. The class teacher named Zhang Yue entered and asked all the students to sit down in their seats. Turning away, Wu Mo Xuan said that the boy was lucky today, but he shouldn't rely on luck anymore. The companion who appeared says that this guy is very arrogant and haughty. The protagonist agrees with this, but says that sooner or later he will finish off this scoundrel. The teacher, taking his seat, says that he will now distribute cultivation resources, which are called the Beast Soul Crystal. This item is the name given to the transformed blood and flesh of a monster after its death, which is divided into ranks. Xiao Heilong explains that they contain a huge amount of energy within them, which is suitable for absorbing the souls of beasts, and is also capable of greatly enhancing their abilities. The higher the rank, the more expensive such a crystal is, and it is considered a currency in the world of masters. The school will distribute the Beast Soul crystals according to the ranking of awakened souls to show how cruel the world of beast masters is. In it, the strong remain on top, and the weak are simply eliminated. The teacher announces that Wu Mo Xuan will receive 10 Beast Soul crystals, as he is an S-rank skeleton reptile king. Wu Munxuan would definitely become a very strong person after absorbing these crystals. The girl tells the student not to relax despite his strength, and he says that he will not let his teacher down. Jiao Lei, an A-rank awakened soul, will receive 5 mid-rank crystals, while Li Feng, who is a B-rank awakened soul, will receive 5 low-rank crystals. Lin Yuan, the owner of an E-rank awakened soul, receives 5 crystals of the worst rank. One of the classmates questions the main character's plans to break the school record. No one takes him seriously because of his weak animal soul, and so they start to make fun of him. However, Lin Yuan approaches the teacher and thanks her for the crystals she gave him. Wu Munxuan also manages to put in his word, saying that the protagonist only received trash. However, Xiao Heilong, who appeared, says that for a young man, this is a very good thing at his stage of development. The teacher condescendingly says that he will give a crystal of the highest rank from himself, but Lin Yuan asks to replace it with a crystal of the lowest rank. The surprised teacher says that the beast soul cannot be fed with a large amount of harmful crystals, and the young man has to agree. Wu Munxuan turned around and thought to himself how insignificant Lin Yuan's talent was. The price for such a crystal is 10,000 coins, and this is enough to buy 100 lower rank crystals. Suddenly, Sumu Shui approaches the boy, smiling, and he asks why she appeared here. In a kind voice, the girl tells Lin Yuan that she wants to show him something, and so asks him to go with her after school. The young man agrees, and the girl tells him that the guy who bullied her left school. The fact that an S rank would talk to an E rank like that really surprised all of his classmates. Lin Yuan is considered a very lucky guy, although he has the weakest beast soul. This especially hurts Wu Mo Xuan, who does not understand why both the teacher and Sumu Shui were kind to him. In the evening, after school, he and his friends stop the main character. The green-haired impudent man asks how it is that Lin Yuan became good friends with those around him. It turns out that last time he persuaded that rich guy to detain the girl in order to be a savior in her eyes. Wrinkling his face in anger, the protagonist realizes that standing in front of him is the man who killed the previous owner of the body. Wu Monxuan says that such a girl deserves to be with him, and not with a weakling like the boy opposite. The man begins to threaten Lin Yuan to never bother Sumu Shui again, but the protagonist understands that he should not start a fight on school grounds. And so the young man simply says that he will not do this, which angers his opponent even more. With a smirk, Wu Mo Xuan proposes a bet, saying that he will eat a bag of inferior crystals if the youth passes the 7-day beast trial. However, if he loses, he will have to completely disappear from the bully's sight. The protagonist jokes that it's a serious bet, but the man opposite says that he's not afraid to argue with scum. Then Lin Yuan grinned and said that he agreed to such a bet. The evening slowly begins to deepen, and the street takes on a warm yellow hue. Walking closer to Sumu Shui, who was waiting for him, Lin Yuan asks why she decided to call him. With a smile, the girl leans closer and says that the school gave her 10 high-quality crystals, and she wants to share half with the man. She heard that the young man only received low-quality beast crystals due to his weak soul. According to her, in that fight he behaved no weaker than a B rank, but Lin Yuan says that he cannot accept these crystals. The girl continues to insist on her own, because the test of the beast is very difficult, and he needs to prepare. In turn, Sumu Shui will be able to cope with this test without any crystals at all, because she has the S-rank soul of the 9-tailed snow fox. Lin Yuan then offers to accept her proposal if he can pass the test. However, he should prepare well for the upcoming event. The young man thought that Sumu Shui would be shocked by his strength when the day of the beast trial came. Xiao Heilong appears and says that the girl clearly cares about him. However, Lin Yuan calls all this nonsense, asking to be taken to the Beast Soul Palace. After some time, he finally arrives at a majestic building that towers over the people. This is where the trial of the soul will take place, and the protagonist decides to go and exchange crystals. Lin Yuan approaches the man behind the counter and asks to exchange a high-quality crystal for a bunch of low-quality ones, much to his surprise. After some time, a man comes up with a bag containing 100 low-quality crystals. Taking the bag onto his shoulder and turning around, Lin Yuan begins to walk away. Later, he arrives at an abandoned warehouse outside the city, where he begins to actively develop. Now his beast soul is a B-rank giant black lizard. The man successfully absorbs the radiation that fills the low-quality crystals, and he gains 1,000 evolution points. One chicken gave the guy only 5 development points, while the worst crystal gives him a whole 1,000 points. According to the hierarchy of this world, each level is divided into 9 stars, and his beast currently has 7 stars. In total, there are ranks in this world such as Battle Beast, Beast General, Beast Master, Lord, and Emperor. Filled with self-confidence, Lin Yuan was confident that there was nothing difficult about the trial of the beast. A week later, he and his classmates arrive at the Beast Soul Palace. Many of the school children whisper about their level of preparation, which leaves much to be desired. Wu Moxuan appeared with a grin and asked the protagonist if the crystal given to him by the teacher helped him reach at least the first rank of a battle beast. However, Lin Yuan maintains his composure, not reacting with aggression to such attacks. Turning around, the man asks if his opponent is ready, and he replies that his beast soul already has 8 stars. But the protagonist smirks, saying that he was asking if the man was willing to eat a bag of low-quality crystals. This angers Wu Moxuan and his friends, and also surprises his classmates who are afraid of bullies. The teacher who came up announced that the exam was about to begin, and therefore the students needed to prepare their certificates and tickets, and then enter the palace one by one. Wu Monxuan says in an evil voice that Lin Yuan is finished after the test, but he leaves indifferently. When the protagonist enters the 3rd floor, the exam area, he is asked to get ready. He is asked if he has awakened an E-rank soul, and the man answers in the affirmative. With his eyes closed, the man wishes the student good luck, thinking to himself that he will not be able to pass the exam. The young man sits down in a chair and takes his position, and then a mechanical voice announces that the combat simulation is about to begin. Suddenly he opens his eyes and a yellow light hits his face. The man finds himself in a barren desert, and the terrain offers absolutely no advantages that he can take advantage of. Suddenly, to his left, he sees a silhouette, accompanied by a strange sound. The source of the sound is the 3-star beast Desert Wolf, which is approaching angrily. He is the first enemy in the trial of the beast, rushing towards the protagonist. Lin Yuan instinctively takes a defensive stance, covering his body from a possible attack. The monster tries to strike but misses, and to the man he seems very weak. Xiao Heilong appears and asks if the young man is going to merge with his beast soul. At his feet is already the carcass of the desert wolf that dared to attack earlier. Noticing 3 more desert wolves behind him, Lin Yuan says that against such low-level beasts, this is not necessary. The man who was watching the exam was genuinely surprised that the guy was able to pass the first level. Another enemy attacks the main character, intending to cripple him, but Lin Yuan embraces Wolf's body with his arms without any problem. The examiner asks one of his partners to come closer to him. The observers are very surprised by the fact that the main character killed a 3-star monster without using the power of the soul. For a while they just stare at their monitor screens, in a daze, and Lin Yuan, without stopping, continues to fight with the beasts around him. He slams his fist straight into the desert wolf's head, causing serious injury. The monster, despite the profuse blood loss, begins to swing its clawed paw. However, Lin Yuan easily ducks to the side, avoiding the deadly blow. The desert wolf is easily launched into the air by the attack the young man delivers. Thus, he manages to deal with another enemy. It got to the point that the people observing the exam called him a monster. The thought comes to mind that the guy is simply cheating, because the purpose of the exam is to test the animal's soul, and he has never used it. This behavior is indeed against the rules, but it is not cheating, and Lin Yuan will fail the test if he does not pass the 3rd level. It will be almost impossible to pass it without using the beast's soul, even with such power. However, if a man passes the test, his future will be promising. The companion reminds you that the real test lies ahead. Finally, right in the middle of the soulless desert, a huge silhouette of a new enemy appears. It appears right in front of the standing Lin Yuan, who steps back a little. His new opponent is the 6-star Desert Wolf King. To defeat such an opponent, a high level of beast soul talent is required, such as A rank and above. Finally, the time has come for the young man to show his true strength. Opening his mouth, he commands to begin merging with the beast soul. Xiao Heilong looks at his partner approvingly, finally waiting for this. The man's body instantly begins to be enveloped in blue light, transforming his limbs. A huge black lizard, an S-rank beast soul, appears on the battlefield. Lin Yuan let out a loud, animal-like roar as soon as he materialized. The Desert Wolf King steps back a little, not understanding what has become of the lizard's fragile soul. The people monitoring the exam double-check the documents to make sure that the protagonist really does have an E rank. What is happening seems incredible, because only a few days have passed since the awakening of the beast soul. It is entirely possible that Lin Yuan is currently an SS rank, or even an SSS rank. His menacing body looms over the king of the desert wolves, who seems like an extremely small creature in comparison. However, the creature does not retreat, and its eyes fill with rage and malice. With its mouth wide open, the desert wolf lunges at its opponent, despite its size advantage. The transformed Lin Yuan did not move from his place, preparing to launch his own attack. He suddenly raises one of his huge paws, which has many claws high up. A moment later, he unleashes his devastating attack on the desert wolf. With this blow, he manages to press the creature to the floor without any difficulty. The observers can hardly believe their eyes, because the young man finished off the 6-star beast in a second. One of the people decides to stay and record the man's details, while the other reports the situation to the chief examiner. Clutching his tablet tightly, the man rejoices that their city has finally found a super talent. At this time, another squad of desert wolves appeared in front of Lin Yuan. Looking ahead, he says he is a little disappointed by the level of difficulty of the exam. The companion informs that the first 3 levels were needed to get a passing score, but now the grade can be improved. Improving your grade is an important aspect because many universities recruit masters based on exam results. A total of 10 3-star desert wolves, as well as their king, are moving towards the transformed youth. For Lin Yuan, this was a mere trifle, so he let out his ferocious roar again. The sound is so loud that the desert wolves don't dare go any further for the next few seconds. After this, they all, as if on command, rush forward. With one swift strike, Lin Yuan manages to finish off one of the desert wolves. With another blow, the young man takes the life of another of the creatures. The silhouette of his awakened beast soul rises majestically above the battlefield. At this time, under his feet lie many corpses of wolves that died in the battle. After exhaling a little, Lin Yuan asks out loud how many more levels he still has left to go through. At this point, a serious-looking man asks what the rush was and why he was called. It turns out to be the head of the exam, Torjao Shane, to whom the reporter informs that one of the examinee's results are outside the normal range. His talent rating doesn't match his actual strength, but the exam leader says that this is a common occurrence. However, the man is then informed that the protagonist is officially an E rank, which surprises him. The observer who left the site asks Torjao Shane to watch the progress of the exam and then draw conclusions. Thor is incredulous that an E-rank soul master could pass the test. A clear silhouette of the huge reptile that Lin Yuan had transformed into appeared on the monitor screen. Seeing this, the exam supervisor's face suddenly changes, and he is very surprised. Then he too becomes confident that the main character is not E-rank. Observers speculate that the young man possesses the strength of at least a beast general. He is currently at the 10th level of the trial, the last and most difficult, because each of the wolves has the power of a 7-star battle beast. The best universities, without exception, will certainly start competing for such a person, because he is a genius. The surprised exam observers nod several times. They were not at all prepared for such a turn of events. Thor Zhao Shanhei even admits that Lin Yuan will have the power of an emperor rank, but it is too early to make such hasty conclusions now, since the trial is still ongoing. The main character is still in the middle of a deserted desert. He thought that there would be a boss at the final stage, but there are still desert wolves here, just like before. Some of them had already begun to come closer, their red eyes flashing. This makes the young man feel very irritated, grinding his teeth. He swings his clawed paws sharply, calling them trash and pathetic garbage. He doesn't care how many there are, and he starts attacking them with his powerful limbs. None of the desert wolves that came can do anything against him. At this moment, several more animals rush from the side at the transformed man. They begin to try to sink their powerful jaws into the huge lizard. However, Lin Yuan's absolute defense saves him from serious damage. None of the wolves that dared to run closer could penetrate the armor. Observers watching the experiment noted that he managed to resist the attack of the 7-star beast. Lin Yuan's attack, defense, speed, and explosive power are all at the ideal level. Naturally, there can be no talk of him being only an E-rank. He deals with his opponents with extreme ease, tearing them apart. Straightening up, Lin Yuan saw 6 more desert wolves in front of him. Then he lets out a powerful roar, demonstrating his power over the enemy. The wolves freeze in stupor, not daring to move to the side. Leaning closer, Thor Zhao Shanhei asks out loud what kind of power this is. A large amount of flames begin to erupt from Lin Yuan's mouth. It begins to rush straight towards the desert wolves standing nearby. In literally 1 second, they are swept away by a huge charge of heat covering their bodies. The transformed man manages to get rid of a bunch of monsters in one fell swoop. With his strength, Lin Yuan can easily lift large rocks into the air. The place where the beast is tested turns into a real ruin. None of those observing the exam understand what techniques the young man is using. Gradually, the smoke from the protagonist's attack settles, revealing his silhouette again. Finally, the examiner announces to the boy that he has successfully passed all stages of the beast's test. A smug Lin Yuan thought that this exam was much easier than he expected. If he passed the last level, then he is guaranteed a good grade, and many people will probably be surprised when they see his results. After all, even Wu Mo Xuan with S-rank talent definitely couldn't pass this test. The protagonist wants to take this opportunity to show even the best universities that even an E-rank soul is capable of much. Xiao Heilong proudly crosses his arms over his tiny body when he hears that the exam is over. After some time, Lin Yuan comes to his senses in the real world. He finds himself in a test capsule, approached by observers. On the screen of one of the monitors, information about the main character, his characteristics and results is displayed. At the age of 18, in less than 2 weeks, a person had reached the rank of a 3-star beast general, and such strength was simply astonishing. The exam supervisor came closer and congratulated the young man on passing all the tests. Hearing such praise, Lin Yuan guessed that he had received a good grade. He is informed that all universities will compete for him for the skills he has demonstrated, and then the guy asks when the results will be published. The man replies that they should be published today if nothing happens, and at the same time notes that the main character is too calm. After leaving the testing capsule, he bows and thanks for the exam. However, Thor Zhao Shanhei asks him to take his time and wait. He directly asks the question of why the boy is only an E rank. But Lin Yuan replies that his soul was weak when he woke up, and there are no problems that Thor could help him with. After talking among themselves, the examiners think that the main character did not lie, and they are surprised by his character. After achieving extremely high results, he did not behave arrogantly, which is very commendable. Gradually, a large number of students appear on the square in front of the building, heatedly discussing the exam. Lin Yuan waves cheerfully to Su Mu Shui, who is standing nearby under a tree. He approaches the active girl, asking if she passed the exam. Then the student says that she, of course, passed the exam with a very good grade. It turns out that she managed to pass 9 levels out of 10, and her strength increased more than Lin Yuan had imagined. From his gaze, he notices that Su Mu Shui wants to ask about his evaluation, but doesn't know how to do it. She would probably be surprised by his result, since ordinary E-rank people can't even pass the first level. Saying that the exam is over, the protagonist asks not to worry about grades and invites the girl to dinner to celebrate her success. The restaurant, however, is quite far away, and Lin Yuan is worried that they will miss the announcement of the results. But Su Mu Shui says that the results have already been decided, and they will only publish the rankings. Be that as it may, none of the students will be able to surpass the main character's grades. Finally, 1 o'clock comes, and a huge crowd of people appears on the square in front of the palace of the Beast Soul. Wu Mengxuan begins to push people away, telling them to make way. It turns out that he completed 7 levels and achieved the same result as the previous winner. The talent of an S-rank Beast Soul is truly terrifying, and people around him think that he will be the best candidate this year. Wu Mengxuan thought to himself about how hard he had prepared for this exam, that he even asked his parents to buy him a drug to open up his Beast Soul. However, he and his friends do not see Lin Yuan, believing that he is hiding somewhere. One of his friends even calls him a coward for not coming. Wu Mengxuan was still happy with what was happening, because he wanted the young man to no longer appear before him. Suddenly, he turns his head towards the sound of familiar voices discussing what a good time they had. The source of the voices is Su Mushui, walking forward with a wide smile, and Lin Yuan walking next to her. As soon as he saw the hated youth, Wu Mengxuan literally seethed with anger. Coming closer, the bully, seeing the guy's calm face, assumes that he got a good grade on the test, and he says that everything suits him. Wu Mengxuan's friends start laughing at Lin Yuan, saying that any fool can pass the first level. The people around him also laugh at him, saying that it was already very good that an E-rank master decided to participate in the exam. Leaning closer, the bully asks if the protagonist has forgotten about their bet, but Lin Yuan smiles and asks him if he is willing to lose to someone like him. Finally, the students are informed that the lists have been posted, and the exam results have been announced. The entire crowd is eager to find out who took first place in the exam. Just looking at the rankings, Wu Mengxuan is happy that he was able to take first place. However, after a few seconds it dawns on him that he is only in 3rd place. The man looks at the exam results with disbelief, not believing that there are 2 more people in front of him. In 2nd place is the name of Su Mushui, who has passed 9 levels. He didn't expect at all that her talent would be greater than his. The guy lifts his head up, thinking that if she is only in 2nd place, then in 1st place is a real monster. He freezes suddenly and beads of sweat appear on his face from excitement. According to the big board, the 1st place was taken by Lin Yuan, who had passed 10 levels in the beast trial. Wu Mengxuan's eyes widened. He couldn't understand how this was even possible. The students gathered in the square began to loudly discuss the success of the main character. Some even began to criticize Wu Mengxuan, saying that he bullied them the most. But he himself ended up in only 3rd place. As luck would have it, Lin Yuan appears from behind and says that it is time to fulfill the terms of the bet. The boy jokingly asks whether the man would prefer to eat the bag of lower crystals dry or with seasoning. The school students who saw the main character stand in shock, seeing the man who took 1st place. Su Mushui's mouth slightly opened, understanding why Lin Yuan wasn't surprised when she told him her result. Wu Mengxuan doesn't believe that this is even possible and becomes very angry. The first thing he does is suspect the main character of cheating during the exam. This news is immediately picked up by many students in the square. Lin Yuan angrily says that he wouldn't cheat to win. However, if a person has an E-rank soul, then cheating is the only explanation for his victory. The students gathered in the square continue to discuss what happened. Xiao Heilong appears nearby and says that doubts have arisen about the main character. With a smile, Lin Yuan replies that there is no reference book that says that an E-rank cannot win, and provokes his opponent with his complacency. Wu Mengxuan even threatens to take legal action because of his doubts about the protagonist. For some time, the protagonist and the bully continue to argue with each other. Suddenly, someone loudly asks what kind of commotion is going on outside the palace, and the silhouette of a huge monster appears. It turns out that this is a projection of the soul of an enraged Torjiao Shanhei, who approaches the crowd. As expected of a Lord-ranked Beast Soul Master, the Chief Examiner's strength is truly great. It is said that his fierce bear soul has already reached the level of a 7-star Lord. Straightening up, he says he heard about someone wanting to go to court. Wu Mengxuan comes closer, bows and says that he wants to sue Lin Yuan because he thinks his assessment is baseless. He awakened an E-rank Beast Soul and passed the 10 levels of the exam, which is considered impossible. However, the Chief Examiner admits that he was present at Lin Yuan's exam and did not notice anything unusual. Looking down at the boy, he asks if he really thinks he was helped to cheat. Hearing this, Wu Mengxuan instantly sank to the ground, slightly panicking. Instantly standing at attention, the disciple says that he dare not doubt Zhenhai's pride. However, he reminds that Lin Yuan's soul has been assessed as E-rank, and everyone should know what that means. That's why he asks the examiner to at least publish a video of this battle, because everyone is very interested in how he did it. However, Thor refuses, saying that examiners are prohibited from disclosing information about candidates except in special cases. Then Wu Mengxuan says that there is another way to check the results. The young man asks to allow them to have a duel in order to settle the issue that has arisen. After all, if the main character loses, this will be enough to show that his assessment was obtained unfairly. The crowd immediately becomes more lively, seeing that the bully wants to humiliate Lin Yuan. Su Muxue calls Wu Moxuan a vile person, but Lin Yuan says it's okay. The main character sees what is happening as a good opportunity to pay off his bills. It is not forbidden to challenge on palace grounds, but Thor says that you must first find out your opponent's opinion. The situation is so tense that Lin Yuan has no choice but to accept the challenge. Wu Moxuan asks if the man dares to fight him. The girl whispers to the protagonist that he is free not to fight, but he says that this is not a way out. By raising his hand sharply, the man announces that he agrees to the fight. This is the first time in public that an S-rank soul will fight an E-rank soul. Standing opposite the protagonist, Wu Moxuan is already anticipating his victory. The chief examiner, Tor Zhao Shanhei, intervenes in the conversation, calling the two boys the pride of the city and saying that there is no need for a fight to the death. As he said earlier, he was able to verify that there was no cheating. However, the bully still wants to try to tear the main character to shreds. Then Tor Zhao Shani says that their duel will take place in the arena of the Beast Soul Palace. Invitations have been issued to everyone who wants to watch the fight, and a large crowd is gathering at the stadium. Both sides are ready to fight, and the chief examiner wishes to explain the rules. This battle is just a sparring match. You can give it your all, but you can't kill. Everyone was ready, so it was decided to start the battle immediately. Lin Yuan suggests that his rival beg for mercy, and then he will spare him the public humiliation of a dinner of lowly crystals. However, Wu Moxuan is adamant and activates the fusion with his beast soul. A large monster, resembling an animal skeleton, suddenly appears on the battlefield. Lin Yuan steps back a little, and in the stands people start whispering about how strong an S-rank soul is. The protagonist's rival is called a real genius, since he was able to awaken such a soul. The first thing the transformed Wu Moxuan does is try to attack the young man opposite him. But Lin Yuan jumps up trying to avoid being hit. The impudent man calls the main character a coward, because he still has not merged with his animal soul. The fact that Lin Yuan does not transform is also noticed by the spectators of the fight. Su Muxue is also watching from the stands, promising to stop Wu Moxuan at the first need. Xiao Heilong flies up to her, and despite being invisible to the girl, he says that the main character will not lose. Lin Yuan grinned and said that if everyone was so eager to see his transformed form, then he would grant the people's wish. Suddenly his eyes flash a bright yellow light and he activates the fusion. The man's body instantly rises into the air above the arena and seems to be filled with light energy. In just a second, a huge blue lizard silhouette appears, letting out a devastating roar. Next to him, Wu Moxuan simply paled in comparison to such power. All the gathered students can't believe their eyes, because this is definitely not what an E-rank soul should look like. The main question for the opponent remains how Lin Yuan was able to develop so quickly. He cannot understand what exactly happened to his animal soul. At this moment, the transformed protagonist raises his huge paw. He unleashes all his colossal power straight at his opponent. The speed of the strike was so fast that Wu Moxuan didn't even have time to move. In addition, the fear of defeat also binds the owner of an S-rank soul. Finally, a loud bang is heard, followed by large clouds of smoke. At the last moment, Wu Moxuan manages to jump away, realizing that he would have been crippled if the blow had hit him. The protagonist again raises one of his powerful clawed paws. Judging from the outside, Lin Yuan's strength is no less than that of a beast soul general. But such a fact simply does not fit into one's head, because it is impossible to develop such strength in such a short time. The next blow flies towards Wu Moxuan, and he realizes that he won't have time to dodge it. His eyes fill with rage at finding himself in this situation. A reptile king like him couldn't afford to lose to an E-rank trash. After this, he decides to counterattack by throwing one of his limbs forward. However, he suddenly froze when he heard Lin Yuan's voice, who had not thought at all that his opponent would dare to attack. The main character easily manages to intercept his opponent's blow. Wu Moxuan then shouts, asking what the young man is going to do. He suddenly takes the limb with his second paw and lifts the king of reptiles off the ground. After this, Lin Yuan slams his opponent's body into the ground with all his might. This causes several boulders to fly into the air along with the smoke. But Lin Yuan doesn't stop, continuing to pound Wu Moxuan into the ground. He, due to his weakness in front of the main character, cannot give any resistance. Finally, Lin Yuan freezes, releasing his clawed paws and raising one of them up. The crowd of students in the stands begins to cheer, not believing their eyes. Su Muxue, frozen in shock, already thought that the protagonist was not weak, but such a strong soul astonished her. Wu Moxuan refuses to admit defeat, stating that it is simply impossible for an E-rank soul to defeat an S-rank soul. He tries to attack Lin Yuan, but he easily blocks such a blow. The young man reveals his tale to his opponent and reminds him that he lost the fight. However, Wu Moxuan does not want to admit his defeat and continues to try to attack his opponent. Suddenly, a small red ball flashes on his tongue. A second later, the king of the reptiles snaps his mouth, swallowing the object. Watching the battle, Tor Zhao Shanhei recognizes the item as a blood pill. This item is a pill that allows you to level up in a short time. Thus, Wu Moxuan's strength grew from an 8-star battle beast to a 3-star beast general. However, it would take a whole month to recover from such a medicine, and so Lin Yuan did not take his enemy seriously at all. The chief examiner, taking the microphone, announces that Wu Moxuan has been declared a loser for breaking the rules. However, the king of the reptiles, who is slowly beginning to be enveloped in heat, is not going to retreat. This surprises observers, because it is quite obvious that the main character is stronger. But Wu Moxuan shouts in anger that he will finish off Lin Yuan. However, the transformed youth maintains his calm, only narrowing his eyes slightly. This surprises the reptile king, because in his eyes it is obvious that he is stronger than Lin Yuan. Suddenly, the protagonist opens his mouth wide, letting out a strong and loud roar. His opponent has no choice but to go on the offensive entirely. At this time, a large amount of yellow energy accumulated in Lin Yuan's mouth. As if on cue, she rushes towards Wu Moxuan, striking his body with all her might. The power of such a blow is enough to throw the opponent away. He flies almost the entire arena, unable to resist such strong energy. Finally, the yellow beam disappears, but Wu Moxuan is still chained to the stone wall. His transformed form dissolves almost immediately, and the boy falls to the ground, bleeding. Thor Zhao Shanhei enters the arena and officially declares Lin Yuan's victory. The spectators in the stands admire the fight that has just taken place, because the main character defeated his opponent, who tried to cheat. Addressing his protege, the chief examiner asks to take Wu Moxuan to the medical center, because he will spend several months in bed due to the drug and his wounds. Now, most likely, no reputable university will want to accept such a student. Coming closer to the schoolboy, Torjiao congratulates him on his victory in the duel. However, Lin Yuan thanks the man for giving him the opportunity to settle the score with Wu Moxuan. Leaning over, Thor says that he is also a member of the admissions committee of the Animal University in the city of Mo, and therefore invites you to enroll there. The Yanjing and Mo City Beast universities are the most prestigious, and only the best are admitted. Lin Yuan then asks if the man is recruiting disciples for his own benefit as well. This surprises Thor, because the main character first thought about what advantages the university would give him. In exchange for admission to the university in the city of Mo, the man promises to apply for a full scholarship with a large amount of coins, crystals, and even weapons. Lin Yan has a rough idea of how much such items cost in his head, and Xiao Heilong asks him to think about it carefully. This is the best that the university administration can offer the boy. Suddenly, a grown man appears in the arena and calls Thor shameless for recruiting students. The man turns out to be Chung Yuhu, a representative of Yanjing Beast University. Coming closer, he offers Lin Yuan to enroll in their university and promises a much higher scholarship for this. The other students in the stands are in shock because they can only dream of such treatment. Upon hearing this, Thor Zhao Shanhei becomes enraged and a projection of his beast appears above him. He angrily asks Chung Yuhu how he dares to poach a student right in front of his eyes. However, immediately the silhouette of another beast appears in the air, which is no less powerful. Chung Yuhu is not afraid to challenge Thor, asking who he is trying to scare. A strong aura of incredible power arises between them, which covers everything around. Lin Yuan, who found himself at the epicenter of events, tries to somehow cover his body with his hands. Suddenly, another person appears in the arena and asks Torjiao and Chung Yuhu what the commotion is all about. For a few seconds, the entire trinity that was here before freezes. Wrinkling his eyes, Lin Yuan noticed how the man easily suppressed the auras of the great fierce bear and the void ghost tiger. A plump man approaches and invites the protagonist to the Sichuan Beast University, offering even greater material benefits. Hearing what kind of money and resources the university is ready to spend on him, the young man understands that he is facing a rich man. There are other people who appear right in the arena who want to accept the man into their university, but Lin Yuan doesn't take them seriously. Standing behind, Chung Yuhu asks the young man to stop making noise and asks him what he thinks. Then Lin Yuan bowed his head slightly and said that he did not consider any other organizations except the Beast University in Mo City and Yanjing University. Hearing this, the plump man says that if the young man changes his mind, he can always come to them. Chung Yuhu and Torjiao, who stood closer to each other, asked who he would choose. Lin Yuan put his hands together and promised to announce his decision before the admissions campaign began. Having heard this answer, both university representatives are satisfied. However, a little later, they begin to conflict with each other again. Their argument with each other does not subside, gradually escalating into open swearing. Xiao Heilong appears and announces that Lin Yuan's soul has been rated as a general, for which he receives a silver chest. At this moment, Sumu Xue approaches the young man and says that he is now #1 in the city. She asks the protagonist if he wants to go to the same school she does, and he thinks it's a good idea. However, despite the fact that Yanjing University is objectively stronger, she will choose the university in Mo City. When asked why the girl wants to do this, Sumu Shui says that there are people at that university that she doesn't want to see. It seems like this isn't the best topic of conversation for her. Returning home, Lin Yuan and his companion open the silver box and receive 10,000 evolution points. In addition, he receives a flaming claw, a general rank weapon. According to the description, this weapon will deal additional fire damage to enemies. It turns out that the weapon that the main character received is worth hundreds of thousands. Anything above the Beastmaster rank could be valued in the tens of millions, so they would be able to get rich once they reach that rank. After this, a conversation begins between Lin Yuan and Xiao Heilong about which universities to apply to. According to the companion, the university in the city of Mo prepares very strong students, and the main character will probably like it there. The teachers at this university put military affairs first, and all resources are distributed based on student ratings. The University of Mo can rightly be considered a cruel coliseum. Hearing in such words the opportunity to become the strongest, the young man decides to choose this particular university. A little later, the evil Cheng Yuhu bursts into Zhao Shanhe's office without any ceremony. The representative from Mo University sitting at the table sneers that Lin Yuan chose him, but Cheng Yuhu asks which university Sumu Shui chose. It turns out that she also chose Mo City University, and Zhao Shanhe asks if the man knows her. In response, the Yanjing University representative says that he knows her too well, and asks her to take care of her, since her background is not simple. A conversation with Lin Yuan, who asked when he could get a scholarship, pops up in front of teacher Zhao. He replied that usually money is issued after enrollment in the course, but he could apply for early issue. The man then turned to Sumu Shui, who was sitting next to him, asking if she needed a quick scholarship, to which she replied that she was not interested. After thinking for a moment, Zhao Shanhe admits that the girl looks better than the main character. 3 days later, the protagonist already receives a stipend of 500,000 coins, 20 high-quality crystals, 5 beast soul capsules, and weapons. This equipment will greatly increase Lin Yuan's strength, making his scales harder and his spine spiked. However, what's important to the guy is not the equipment, but the subsidy of 500,000. Because for it you can get 5,000 low-quality crystals and 5 million evolution points. Later, the young man returns to the bank with the desire to again purchase a large quantity of low-quality crystals. This desire greatly affects the person standing behind the counter. A little later, the loading of low-quality crystals into a special machine is completed. Before leaving, the protagonist thanks the man who gave him the crystals. However, as soon as the young man leaves, he thinks that he plans to feed these crystals to pigs. Lin Yuan felt uncomfortable telling the driver the address of the secret warehouse, so he was forced to bring all the crystals home. But Xiao Heilong reassures the boy that he can absorb crystals in human form. This is great news for the young man, as he only sacrifices absorption speed. Concentrating, Lin Yuan picks up the first crystal, which begins to glow purple. As he exhales, he finds himself enveloped in bright, colorful energy that erupts from the stone. In this way, he successfully absorbs nuclear radiation, gaining a whole 1,000 evolution points. However, the absorption takes a full 15 minutes, and he needs to speed up in order to absorb all the crystals. After some time, the bags of crystals are found to be empty, and the protagonist's body has mutated in the process to be able to resist radiation. With this ability, Lin Yuan is no longer afraid of any concentration of nuclear radiation. Now the main character's body will not be affected by dangerous contaminated zones, where monsters were destroyed with nuclear weapons. There are still 2 months ahead, and therefore he must absorb all the crystals and increase his strength. Later, a whole council gathers in the conference hall of the Beast University of Mo City. At the head of the table sits director Wang Ting, taming everyone with his gaze. He announces that the recruitment of people to their university is complete and all the staff have done a great job. This year's freshmen are even more deserving than in previous years. However, the process of waiting for students to gather their strength is too long. That is why he discussed the issue that was troubling him with the directors of other universities. It was decided to hold a national competition for freshmen to find out who among them was the real beast. Later, after some discussion, people agree that this is a good decision. It turns out that even first-year students will be able to take part in this competition. University Director Wang Ting is waiting to be provided with a list of participants. Roughly 12 people should be registered, of which 10 are in the main team and 2 are in reserve. One of the people at the table suggests choosing participants according to Qianlong's ranking. Crossing his arms over his chest, he justifies this by saying that there is no water in him. According to one of the 3 lists, new students can also challenge. If you follow the Qianlong list, there may be omissions. For example, people with animal souls, which are auxiliary, will not be able to fully develop. Therefore, this list will only be used as a force guide. This is the first national competition and it will be broadcast to the entire country, so the director asks for maximum effort. One of his colleagues approaches Zhao and asks if he can see the list of students. At first, he is surprised that an E-rank talent was accepted into the university. Seeing Lin Yuan's exam result, that he managed to pass all 10 levels, the man is shocked. Rising up slightly, Torjao Shanhe says that he is looking forward to seeing the boy's strength after he starts training. Night slowly falls on the city, but the lights are still on in the main character's apartment. In it, Lin Yuan continues to absorb the many crystals he had. During the absorption process, the boy even manages to master an S-rank skill called nuclear breath. This skill will allow you to emit light particles with nuclear radiation, which is very dangerous for opponents. Lin Yuan then decides to spend 1,000,000 evolution points to learn this skill. This month, the main character absorbed 2,500 crystals, and now he has 1.5 million evolution points. He commands to spend 500 evolution points to improve the body. In addition, he asks to increase the hardness of his scaly armor, the sharpness of his claws, and the power of his nuclear reactor. After this, the man carefully looks at his characteristics. Xiao Heilong congratulates him on becoming the leader of the Beast General level masters. But the young man is a little upset because he wanted to advance to the Beast King level. However, he still had 2,500 crystals left, for which he could get at least 2.5 million evolution points. But the main character doubts that he has enough points to break through to the level of the King of Beasts in one go. The companion assures him that even if he fails to level up, high-quality crystals and capsules can be exchanged for low-quality crystals. Hearing this, Lin Yuan announces that he wants to reach the rank of Beast King before starting his training. Exactly a month later, the boy finds himself on a railway platform. There he is met by teacher Zhao, as well as Sumu Shui, who waves her hand at him in greeting. It turns out that the chief examiner returned home on business. Since it happened that way, he volunteers to take the guys straight to the university. For 2 months, the protagonist never responded to Sumu Shui's messages, explaining that he needed to train hard. The girl says with a smile that she also trained and reached the rank of a 3-star beast general. However, she realizes that she will not be able to catch up with the guy in strength. Finally, Torjao Shanhe says that they have come to the right place. He lets the boys enter a luxurious room that has everything they could possibly dream of. Regular seats on this train cost more than 100,000, and teacher Zhao even has a separate room. If all goes well, they will arrive at the university by evening, and Lin Yuan asks what could go wrong. The man directly says that along the way you can meet monsters that fight each other. This phenomenon is called a beast tide, and accidents occur mainly when they attack trains. With a smile, Torjao Shanhe reassures the students, saying that he will help if there is any danger. He says that with his strength he can restrain an emperor-rank monster for 5 minutes. Leaning towards the window, the protagonist realizes that this rank is much more terrible than he imagined. Suddenly, there is a loud knock at the door, which immediately attracts the attention of those gathered. Zhao opens the door and is informed that 10 kilometers away, the radar has detected a pack of animals moving towards them at high speed. There are fears that in 10 minutes the animals will already encounter them. Having voiced this assumption, the speaker fearfully clasps his hands, in which are teacher Zhao's clothes. The beast tide consists of 3 beast kings, more than 50 generals, and about 300 war beasts. Torjao Shanhe invites his students to come with him, thereby demonstrating the fight with the beasts. Both students agree to help their teacher in the fight. After a while, the train meets several beast soul masters, and a magic ribbon forms near them. A university representative shows the kids a new vehicle that they haven't driven yet. Sitting on what looks like a motorcycle from a distance, Torjao Shanhe tells Sumu Shui that she will ride with the protagonist. After this, he simply leaves, leaving the students alone with each other. A few seconds later, Lin Yuan is the first to board the vehicle. The girl sitting behind him asks the boy if he knows how to operate such a thing, to which he replies that it shouldn't be that difficult. He presses one of the pedals sharply, trying to get the car moving. Immediately after this, they take off from their place, starting to move extremely quickly. Lin Yuan smirked, thinking that it was almost like riding a motorcycle. After some time of driving, they catch up with teacher Zhao, who was ahead. There should be a wave of beasts ahead, and the students should avoid encountering monsters they cannot defeat. Jumping abruptly from his vehicle, the representative of the University of Mo City begins to merge with the beast soul. In its place appears the impressive silhouette of a bear dressed in armor. He finds himself immediately surrounded by several enemies that resemble desert wolves. Torjao Shanhe wraps one of his limbs in yellow energy and swings it. He uses the Earth Claw skill to crush his opponents. Immediately after the impact, the ground near the transformed man begins to crack. The surface splits into 2 parts, and the wolves, having lost their balance, begin to fall into the resulting abyss. As soon as they fall into the abyss, it slams shut, sealing them in. Seeing this, the protagonist assumes that a master of the Emperor's rank is capable of moving mountains and dividing seas. The new squad of wolves continues to advance, approaching the students, and both of them activate their beast soul fusion, preparing to engage in battle. The first to materialize on the battlefield is the protagonist's giant lizard. Immediately behind her appears an S-rank white fox, controlled by Sumu Shui. The girl easily freezes her enemies with her skills, while the transformed young man begins to smash them with his claws. However, at this moment, a monster of impressive size walked right into Lin Yuan's back. To help his friend, Sumu Xue begins to generate a vortex of blue shards. She shouts at the protagonist to run, because the enemy approaching them is too dangerous. The ice projectiles that the girl created do not cause any harm to the creature. At this moment, the young man activates his own weapon, the red flame blade. Lin Yuan uses his enhanced weapon to strike the approaching monster with all his might. The monster's armor breaks and flies apart, and the beast itself flies back tens of meters. Sumu Xue couldn't imagine how strong Lin Yuan was that he could deal with such a monster with just one blow. At this time, the train continues to stop, waiting for the battle to end. The man sitting at the control panel says that their radar is starting to act up. Suddenly, a fourth dot appears on the radar, which should indicate the king of the beasts. The dot also suddenly disappears, and the crew thinks that this is the king of the beasts, capable of hiding its presence, and this should be reported. One of the monsters on the front line is devouring a piece of human flesh. It turns out that this is a heart torn from the body of one of the masters fighting on the front lines. Compared to the human body, the beast appears relatively small. The creature lifts its head slightly upward, letting out a piercing roar. In total, Lin Yuan managed to kill about 10 general-level beasts. At this very moment, something strange begins to happen on the battlefield. A certain purple energy rushes straight towards the neck of the transformed Sumu Xue. A black lizard appears out of nowhere and lets out a terrible roar. The girl panics, but the main character shouts at her to close her eyes so that blood doesn't get into them. The blade of the emerging black lizard almost reaches its target. A huge splash of blood appears right next to Sumu Xue, covering her body in red. It turns out that Lin Yuan arrived in time to protect his partner. He manages to rip out one of the beast's limbs, and the protagonist believes that there is another king of the beasts. He calls the wounded monster a cowardly mongrel who only knows how to hide. After a few seconds, the black creature's body dissolves in a whirlwind of wind. Both beast soul masters become wary, realizing that their opponent could come from anywhere. A moment later, the creature appears on top of the transformed students. It tries to hit the main character's armor with its remaining claw. However, it runs into a spike that Lin Yuan had previously evolved with evolution points. This type of injury causes a lot of damage to the opponent, causing profuse bleeding. A second of confusion is enough for Lin Yuan to grab the enemy's body in his paws. Now it's his turn to strike at the enemy, which makes him incredibly happy. Moving his limbs closer to his mouth, he begins to forcefully open it to the sides. From such pain, the black creature begins to squeal, fearing for its life. The protagonist then begins to concentrate blue energy in his mouth, preparing to use nuclear breath. The transformed youth spews nuclear breath straight into the open mouth of the enemy. This tears the creature's body apart, and a bright light obscures everything around. The transformed Thor Zhao Shanhei appeared behind him, and was very surprised that the boy had managed to cope with such a monster. Lin Yuan transforms into human form and picks up the Beastmaster's crystal core. The representative of the university in the city of Mo also turns into a human, and asks the young man how he killed the monster. Then the man asks him to answer honestly what level of strength the main character has, and he says that he has just reached the rank of Beastmaster. This greatly surprises Zhao, because 2 months ago, the guy had the rank of a 3-star general. The young man comes closer and says in secret that he has become able to absorb the nuclear radiation of the lower soul crystals. A worried Sumu Xue rushes to him and asks if he is okay, but the protagonist reassures her. Then she sighs with relief, saying that otherwise it would have been the end for her. Teacher Zhao encourages the girl, saying that it is human nature to worry. Sumu Xue then comes to the conclusion that she needs to try harder to maintain her composure, and the boy and girl smile at each other. Watching them from the side, Teacher Zhao believes that they are truly extraordinary. The evening slowly begins, the sun goes down, and the train continues its journey. The university representative did not expect that Lin Yuan was able to absorb nuclear radiation, and therefore he was an exceptional talent. Coming closer to the guy, the man says that he has collected all the loot in this badge, and that he will give the profit from it to the main character. After learning that the protagonist has never used a storage badge, Zhao offers to lend him one while he places a request for the item. If a guy can get into the top 10 of the Qianlong rankings, he will be able to choose a room in the dorm and also represent the university in competitions. At this moment, Sumu Xue, who had been resting, woke up and rubbed her eyes a little. She asks how many people the rooms are designed for, because if there are several, it will be inconvenient for people to practice. With a smile, Teacher Zhao replies that students can visit the training hall at any time of the day for free. Lin Yuan was lucky that such premises existed, otherwise he would have been quickly discovered. For 5 million you can get a separate bedroom, and the main character is shocked by this amount. But for the girl, it seems small. Seeing that Sumu Xue was not at all embarrassed by such a price, Lin Yuan tried to figure out who she was. Later, night falls, covering the dormitory of the University of Mo City in darkness. Before conquering the Qianlong rating, the young man decides to first get used to the dormitory. He slowly opens the door to the room he will have to live in. He is greeted by a guy named Zhao Ming, who will apparently be his roommate. His beast soul is an 8-winged snake, and the guy himself is still a first-year student. There is another man in the room who recognizes Lin Yuan, having heard about his E-rank story. It turns out that he also read the dossier on the main character, collecting more information about him. This surprises Lin Yuan, because in his opinion, access to the dossier should be closed. The man introduces himself as Wang Jinzhe and says that there is nothing he doesn't know. For a reasonable price, he can tell you anything the protagonist asks for. The first thing Lin Yuan wants to know is Wang Jin's position in the Qianlong ranking. The plump man doesn't have such a rating, but he does have a list of first-year students who could be in the top 10. He is ready to give away such a list for only 4,000 coins. Having paid for the service, the main character sits down at the computer in the room and turns it on. After some time, he receives a detailed document about some students and their powers. It turns out that there are so many hidden geniuses in Mo City University that half of the freshmen are already Beastmasters. Finally, one of the guys from the outside announces that the last roommate has arrived. Lin Yuan turns to the side and sees another man entering the room. The man with a sullen look introduces himself as Song Lan and says that it is nice to meet you. He is immediately recognized because he is this year's champion in the city of Mo. The main character remembers this man, whose animal soul is a multicolored glass butterfly. The plump man immediately runs up to Song Lan, saying that he will give him a 20% discount on any information. One of the guys invites the whole new group to have lunch, and Lin Yuan agrees. His neighbors are very difficult. One of them is an 8-star beast general, another is a 2-star ruler, and the third is just an informant. One of the guys says that he always dreamed of going to this university. They are approached by 2 girls who are probably also students. The men in the group recognize one of the girls walking on the left. Her name is Yu Qingqiu, and she is distinguished by her remarkable beauty, and her beast soul is a snow silkworm. And on the right is the already familiar Su Mu Shui, who possesses the soul of a 9-tailed snow fox. Zhao Ming asks Wang Jinze how he knows all this, and he replies that information is his power. Su Mu Shui suddenly turns towards the group of newly made friends. She starts waving her hand sharply, calling out to Lin Yuan and saying that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He comes closer and says that they only saw each other during the day, while simultaneously getting to know Yu Qingqiu. This surprises one of the group of friends, because he didn't even think that Lin Yuan would be acquainted with anyone here. Then the main character introduces the girl to his new friends. Wang Jinzi invites the girls to go out to dinner with them, but Su Muxue says that she and her friend already have plans. As soon as the girls move away, the informant tries to find out from the main character where he knows the girl from. Then he teases the guy, saying that he is willing to sell him this information at a discount. After a while, Lin Yuan thinks that he will have a very fun life on campus. However, he cannot relax because there are a large number of strong students at the university. Xiao Heilong, flying around the room, notes the high concentration of energy in the room, making it a good place for training. This is a free entry-level training room, and there are paid mid-level and high-level rooms, and in them the energy concentration should be higher. The companion notices that the protagonist was able to absorb all the low-level crystals, and therefore only good crystals remain. The guy tries to absorb a high-level crystal, but he also gets 1,000 evolutions, just like when consuming a normal crystal. However, Lin Yuan also has a beast soul capsule. A black dot appears right in front of the man, like a portal, from which yellow light oozes. The companion announces that Lin Yuan has successfully absorbed the capsule and has gained a new talent. The young man doesn't remember having a talent column in his stats, so it could be a hidden parameter. The talent gained can increase the absorption speed by approximately 5%. There is no limit on the number of capsules taken, so a man can consume as many as he wants. Finally, the next day arrives, bathing the university building in bright light. Lin Yuan asks Wang Jinzhou where the other 2 guys from the room went. He replies that they are probably training, and then Lin Yuan becomes tense, because he is not the only one who is working hard. The next step for the boy is to buy another batch of lower crystals. The young man receives a call from Torjiao Shanhei, who tells Lin Yuan to come get the money. Having met, the adult transfers to the main character his share of 2,200,000 in currency. In addition, the teacher exchanged 1 million for 10,000 lower crystals, which he gives to Lin Yuan in the storage badge. The young man asks for help in exchanging the remaining money for the beast soul capsules. For this money you can buy 24 capsules, which will last for 2 years. After slapping the protagonist on the shoulder, Torjiao agrees to help and tells him to prepare hard for the Qianlong rating. However, Lin Yuan's goal is not even to get into the top 10 of the rankings, but to take first place in it. A little later, he manages to absorb 1 crystal in just 10 minutes. It turns out that not only the rate of absorption of energy from the air has increased, but also the rate of assimilation of crystals. Not fully understanding the working principle of the absorbed capsules, Lin Yuan decides to continue consuming the crystals. Time gradually moved forward, and days replaced each other one after another. A few days later, the man finishes consuming the set-aside batch of crystals. He sees all three of his roommates together, who are usually busy in the morning, and asks what kind of day it is today. It turns out that today is a freshman meeting, which the main character completely forgot about. Wang Jinzi notes how hard his friends train and believes that they want to enter the top 10. Zhao Ming said that with his rank as a 9-star general, he wouldn't even be in the top 100, and he thought that Song Lang would be able to enter the top 10. However, the sullen boy says that his beast soul is a good support beast, and he is bad at fighting. Lin Yuan thinks that the competition will be especially fierce this year. He must train a lot to achieve the desired result. Beast Emperor. Principal Wang Ting will give a speech at the freshman assembly. Lin Yuan calmly takes his seat, but then someone taps him on the shoulder. The man turns out to be Teacher Zhao, who is also supposed to be present at this meeting. Seeing the guys to the right of the main character, he believes that they are his neighbors. Lin Yuan first introduces Wang Jinze, saying that he specializes in information. Then Zhao Shanhe laughs a little and says that the young man is just like his father. The boy thanks the teacher for the compliment, and the main character asks if they know each other. It turns out that the informant's father is a very big shot, and Lin Yuan will soon see this for himself. Wang Jinze tells his neighbor at the meeting about Zhao Shanhe's Thor. Finally, the university director himself steps onto the stage of the assembly hall, capturing everyone's attention. It then dawned on Lin Yuan that Wang Jinze was Wang Ting's son. The first thing the principal does is greet all the first-year students, saying that he is glad to see them. He starts talking about the official opening of the Qianlong ranking, and the higher the position in it, the more generous rewards people will receive. The man reminds that fate is always in the hands of a person, and talent means nothing. The strong must fight, and their university is the place with the highest death rate. However, all first-year students came here consciously, and therefore there are no cowards or weaklings among them. He asks the students if they realize this, and they unanimously answer that they do. After some time, the ranking list is finally posted right at the university. Lin Yuan compares the list with the information Wang Jinze gave him and finds it useful. After seeing the top 10 Beast Soul Masters, he wonders where he stands. It turns out that he occupies a very low line, 312th place. There were indeed many geniuses in the Mo Beast University, and Lin Yuan only achieved such a position after 10 rounds of testing. He lowered his head slightly and thought about what the rules of the Qianlong ranking were. Xiao Heilong tugs his shoulder slightly and says that he knows about it. According to the rules, only a low rank can challenge a high rank, and only one challenge can be made each day, with a gap in places no more than 100 points. Based on Lin Yuan's current position, it would take about 16 days to move up in the rankings. There is talk over the shoulder about a certain Wu Xuangu, who took first place in the ranking. The situation is getting tense as many people want to rank higher, and because of this, Lin Yuan can't concentrate on training. Roommates note that even in such difficult times, the main character continues to train calmly. Wang Jinze wanted to buy some information from him for $1 million, but Lin Yuan refused, saying that he would discuss it when he reached the top of the list. It is obvious that the main character's goal will be to fight for the first place in the ranking. A little later, Xiao Heilong asks if the young man wants to take all the Beast Soul capsules sent to him. He decides not to take risks, and not to take them all in one sitting, but to divide them into parts. First, he throws 10 yellow balls into his mouth and swallows them. His body instantly changes color, as if a yellow chain lightning passes through it. Lin Yuan manages to absorb the capsules, for which he is awarded talent points. This gives him a total of 10 talent points to spend. The absorption speed has been increased, so Lin Yuan decides to check if the absorption speed of the crystals has been increased. He takes one of the lower quality stones and squeezes it in his hands, closing his eyes. After 7 minutes, the companion notifies him that he has successfully absorbed the crystal and received evolution points. Lin Yuan's guess was correct, as the effect and absorption speed increased. Suddenly, the main character freezes because someone calls him on the phone. The voice on the phone announced that in 10 minutes, Wu Xuangu and Wang Linghu would be fighting in the third arena. Hearing this, Lin Yuan immediately jumps up from his seat, saying that he will be there soon to watch the fight between first and third place. Gradually, a huge number of people gather in the third arena. Lin Yuan walks into the stands, and at that moment someone calls him over. Turning his head, the young man sees Zhao Shanhe waving at him. Next to the teacher stands a man named Meng Changgan, who says that the teacher treats the protagonist as his treasure. Zhao introduces Meng Changgan, calling him his friend from the faculty. It turns out that Shanhe does nothing but talk about Lin Yuan, and the man with glasses offers to become his disciple. This is taken as a joke, and the teachers talk among themselves a little about the upcoming fight, but they cannot decide on a winner. They then decide to ask Lin Yuan's opinion, but he says that he doesn't know the fighters. Finally, a very muscular man, ranked third, comes onto the stage. The stern-looking guy with red hair is named Wang Linghu. another man comes out into the third arena with his arms crossed. It turns out to be Wuxuan Gu, a smug man who ranks first on the list, after the participants have finished introducing themselves to each other. The start of the fight is announced. Wuxuan Gu says that he didn't even think about chickening out, since Wang was the one who challenged him first. However, the red-haired guy, clenching his knuckles, sternly says that first place belongs to him. Then the current leader of the rating decides to teach the upstart a lesson for his overconfidence. After a few moments, he activates his Beast Soul Fusion, transforming into a giant centipede. Lin Yuan recognizes the creature as an SSS-rank golden-winged centipede king who at least possesses the rank of Overlord. The presence of a serious opponent pleases the protagonist, because he really wants to meet him in battle. At this moment, Wang Linghu uses the skill to merge with his Beast Soul. Lin Yuan walked a little closer and silently watched the two top rankings. According to available data, Wang Linghu is also a Beastmaster, and therefore can easily compete. For some time, the transformed beasts do not start fighting, and the teachers watch them. Meng Chang'an admits that at their age he could only dream of such strength, because this year's freshmen are not at all simple. The transformed Wang Linghu lets out a terrible roar, filled with rage towards the enemy. At the same time, he accumulates a clot of powerful energy in his mouth. A second later, he spews out a powerful ball of flame straight towards his enemy. Wu Xuangu, however, is in no hurry to dodge and get out of the projectile's trajectory. Then a clot of orange energy hits his body directly, but does not cause any noticeable damage. The person with the first place in the ranking begins to provoke the enemy, saying that this is all he is capable of. However, Wang Linghu reminds his opponent to win first and then to delude himself. He quickly takes off, moving with the speed of a whirlwind straight towards the enemy. But Wu Xuangu's skills and strength were enough for him to easily track this movement. As if teleporting, the transformed Wang Linghu began to rain blows on the king of golden-winged centipedes. One of these blows lands directly on the opponent's body, crushing him. Lin Wen notices that the red flame tiger is superior to its opponent in speed, agility, strength, and explosive power. The teachers are amazed by Wang Linghu's skill, as he first tested the enemy from a long distance, then quickly closed in and caught him off guard. Turning around, Thor Zhaoshan asks the protagonist if he is afraid to watch such a fight. Meng Chang'an understands that it is very difficult to enter such a university with an E-rank soul, but the desire to take first place in the rankings seems unrealistic. Suddenly, Lin Yuan said out loud that what was happening in the arena was a trap. The teacher with glasses asks why the protagonist assumes this. At this time, chaos breaks out in the arena, and Wang Linghu literally tramples his enemy. All that remains is for him to deal the final blow to finish off the arrogant Wu Xuangu. Suddenly, something in front of him jerks sharply, and he doesn't have time to react at all. Wu Xuangu wraps his transformed body around the red flame tiger, immobilizing it. He begins to growl in anger, ordering the centipede to let him go and not touch him. However, in Wu Xuangu's gaze, one could read unshakable confidence and determination. The body of the captive red tiger begins to burn in a fierce flame, being completely immobilized. Wu Xuangu opens his toothy maw, standing right above Wang Linghu. He spews a large amount of acid from his mouth, pouring it onto the transformed beast. The flame tiger has no choice but to inhale the released toxin. Seeing this, Meng Chang'an asks Lin Yuan how he knew about the trap from the first place. The protagonist says that the best way to lull the enemy's vigilance is to show your weakness, and the man is worthy of taking first place in the ranking. Such arguments astound the assembled teachers, demonstrating that the young man is completely immersed in the process. They even make fun of each other, saying that young people these days are smarter than them. And Torzao Shanhei is proud that he has such an attentive student. Wang Linghu, still not giving up, shouts at Wu Xuangu to stop. He continues to create fire around his body, trying to deal as much damage as possible. The fire tiger swings its large paws, wanting to take revenge on its enemy. With all his might, Wang Linghu slashes his paw straight at the centipede, causing it to bleed. This attack causes Wu Xuangu's shell to split open, and a large amount of green liquid flows out. The audience is shocked, and for a moment it seems to them that the first place could lose this fight altogether. Meng Chang'an then asks the protagonist about his opinion on whether Wu Xuangu will lose. After a short pause, he briefly replies that this is impossible. The guy answers with the utmost confidence that he will lose to Wang Linghu. However, no matter how you look at it, the transformed red flame tiger has every chance of winning. Then Lin Yuan smiled and said that the teachers were probably testing him. Torzao Shanhei admits that this is true, and soon the poison will take effect on the tiger's body. Very soon, the one transformed into a red fiery tiger begins to breathe heavily. Wu Xuangu says that there is still time to remove the poison from the body, but he cannot guarantee the consequences. However, despite his dire situation, Wang Linghu is not going to give up. He rushes forward, engulfed in flames from his beast, but the king of the golden-winged centipedes only mocks him, calling him a fool. Without any problem, Wu Xuangu counterattacks with his powerful tail, stopping the beast. The transformed student flies to the side, tumbling to the ground. Having fallen into the hands of the centipede, Wang Linghu had already lost to the man in first place. The referee enters the arena and announces that the winner of the fight is Wu Xuangu. Teacher Zhao, however, believes that if the opponent had not been poisoned, the battle would have been more exciting. The second teacher believes that the result would be different if one had Lin Yuan's thinking. Thor Zhao Shanhei asks the protagonist if he knows why he invited him to the arena. Lin Yuan assumes that he was called to look at young talents, and his assumption turns out to be correct. It is important for a young man to clearly understand his own position, the strength of his opponent, and his weaknesses. Later, in the meditation room, Xiao Heilong asks the boy what his impressions of the fight were, and he describes both participants as good masters. Each of them is more than worthy of their place in the Qianlong rankings. Wu Xuangu definitely has some kind of ace up his sleeve, and Wang Jinzi definitely has information about it. The main character's chances of winning against such an opponent are quite low, and he's unlikely to win in a duel to the death. There is less than a month left until the national competition, and the young man wants to make every effort to get into the top 10. After this, the protagonist and companion decide to continue their meditation. Gradually, a whole week passes, during which Lin Yuan trains diligently. All this time, he meditated and absorbed crystals to increase his power. The young man exhales tiredly during meditation, very tired. He manages to level up very well. At the moment, he already has more than 3 million evolution points. If it weren't for the experience gain booster, he would never have accumulated so much. The first thing the man decides to do is spend points on the hardness of his scales, the sharpness of his claws, the sharpness of his teeth, increasing the power of his nuclear breath and capacity. Thanks to the large number of points received, Lin Yuan reaches the 2nd star of development. It was time to test his new abilities because he hadn't been in the dorm for the last week. He slept 2 to 3 hours a day. As soon as he returns to the bedroom, Wang Jinzi asks him in surprise why he came. Lin Yuan looks at the boy with confusion. After all, this is a dormitory, his room. The first thing the protagonist asks is where Songlan and Zhao Ming are now. According to the informant, Zhao Ming and the others were seriously injured, and Song Lang arranged to meet the offender today. Hearing such news, Lin Yuan asks why he needs all this at all. Song Lan had to stick his head out to protect Zhao Ming, who was being picked on by the ranking hunters. This is a newly formed group of freshmen who use strong students to get to the top, and then lose places to the older ones. First, the stronger freshmen compete for a place on the list. They then deliberately lose to weaker participants in order to pass on the ranking to them. Moreover, to maintain their performance, participants must make a weekly contribution. Lin Yuan had been thinking all this time that they should be completely thrown out of the list if they didn't meet the skill level. However, their position is maintained as long as money comes in, and such upstarts will be protected. Of course, no one from the university itself thought of interfering in such mundane problems. This university is even more brutal than Lin Yuan imagined, and he is starting to like it. Then he asks who founded the organization, because he is hardly very strong to have thought of such a thing. At this moment, Lin Yuan learns that the creator of the group is Wu Xuangu. This surprises the main character very much because this guy is at the top of the list. However, it turns out that he has not been in first place for a long time, and among the current freshmen, he is considered a hidden talent. Coming closer, Wang Jinzi shows him the updated ranking table. In first place is a certain Chu Tianyi, whose animal soul is a black-headed golden eagle. On the 2nd day after the list was published, Wu Xuangu created a ranking hunter organization, recruiting many people. He promised a ton of perks to the group's members, and it now comprises about 1/3 of the student body. Lingyu doesn't get along with Akshuan at all, so it's not surprising that he didn't join. It took Tianyi just 4 days to top the list. He didn't join Wu Xuangu, and their battle was incredible. However, it is impossible to catch a flying enemy with a poisonous spit, so the king of the centipedes lost. After agreeing to discuss the battle later, the two boys decide to go to Ming's aid. Once in the ward, they see their crippled friend all around them. However, he does not complain, saying that everything is fine with him. Wang Jinzi asks his friend not to lie, because it is clear from his appearance that he was in deep trouble. Zhao Ming recalls that it was today that Song Lan met that scoundrel. The informant nods, saying that they will meet at the 7th arena in the evening. Barely conscious, Zhao Ming accepts the truth that he is to blame for everything. Today, Song Lan will take revenge on his friend's enemy. Against him will come a monster named Yuan Lian, who is feared even by the Beast Soul Masters. Wai Jingyu doesn't care about his rating, because there are real monsters among the students, and he wants to become the biggest and greatest seller of information, independent of his father. He has an incredibly talented brother, and Wai Jin dreams of helping him. Judging by how great the boy's father is, it's hard to even imagine the strength of his older brother. The spectators roar with delight as they watch the fighters appear in the arena. Song Lan's opponent will be the impudent, self-confident, and flamboyant owner of the Beast Soul. A smug boor can't even understand why he needs to protect his friends. Song Lan remains calm at first, But just a second later, real rage flares up inside him, and Yuan Lian continues to mock, ridiculing his attempt to defend the honor of his close friend. Even the university itself doesn't care what kind of business the students are doing. In Yuan Lian's eyes, Song Lang was nothing but trash. Such insults make the young man lose his temper and he hits his hands together. He suddenly jumps into the air and begins to merge with the beast's soul. A bright light fills the entire arena, capturing everyone's attention. Yuan Lian is speechless, waving his arms around stupidly. Second by second, his bewilderment grows stronger. But in front of him there is only a tiny, cute butterfly. Unable to contain his mad laughter, Yuan Lian even slapped his chest. Such a disgusting person wants to stick needles into Song Lan's wings. After a second, it begins to merge. A real monster, a giant four-armed monkey, materializes in the arena. She towers over the arena mercilessly. The monster's height is approximately the same as that of a transformed butterfly. The spectators in the arena are worried about Song Lan, because his soul is just an auxiliary one. The boys even start a small argument about who will win. Now, obviously, all the advantages are with the nasty monkey. She had already extended her huge paw, but the moth used the acceleration technique. He flies away with a whistle, dissolving into thin air. So the monkey remains a fool, as if trying to grasp emptiness. Yuan Lian even looks back several times, not believing his eyes. A bright blue moth appears very close, using the Fury technique. His movements instantly accelerate, and he, like a sharp needle, begins to attack frequently. Unexpectedly, such a tiny moth causes colossal harm to the monkey. The roaring opponent's body falls to the sandy floor of the arena. Song Lan is a force to be reckoned with, even though he looks weak from the outside. If you don't pay attention to it, it's just a small and cute butterfly. It's so humiliating that Yuan Lian screams in anger. He quickly rises from the ground and, like a meteorite, rushes towards the moth. However, Song Lan is not afraid and does not retreat. He uses one of his deadly techniques again, cutting through the air around him. Razor-sharp cuts slice through the monkey's tough skin. Yuan Lian is pushing forward, and Lin Yuan notes that this is a selfless attempt to corner their friend. Once in the corner, the butterfly's strength will be greatly reduced, which is very dangerous. Wang Jinza swallowed excitedly, thinking that Song Lang's situation was simply dire. Warmed up by the fight, Yuan Lian orders him to stop running away like a coward. The butterfly should give up, because it is simply not capable of more. Then Song Lan uses the weakness technique. Just a second later, the monkey is stuck in mid-air, almost hitting the moth. The disgusting animal can't even move. Now he definitely won't be able to reduce the space. For the offender, the outcome of the fight has long been predetermined. But the monkey still laughs, even though he calls Song Lan better than his friend. But still the remaining trash. The four-legged monkey gets out of control and starts making a hail of blows. A sudden attack from the air takes Song Lan by surprise. Yuan Lian's deadly barrage of strikes threatens to crush the moth into dust. Blow after blow, the fists hit the butterfly's body, crushing it with all their force. Unable to bear the pain any longer, Song Lan falls to the ground with a thud. Smiling vilely, Yuan Lian prepares to torment his enemy thoroughly. Without any mercy or quarter, he strikes the moth again and again. It seems like there is a real thirst for blood in his fiery eyes. Suddenly, bright blood begins to squirt out of the moth's body. Despite being badly damaged, he turns around and tries to fly away. However, Yuan Lian prepared an airstrike to catch up with his enemy. He calls Song Lan a pathetic fool who only wants to run away. The four-legged monkey continues to torment the moth, humiliating him in front of all the spectators. He feels genuine awe at the horror he is doing to Song Lan. Wang Jinzai is in a panic and wants the judge to come out. Otherwise, his friend will be killed. Yuan Lian continues to sling mud at the enemy, saying that he will remember today's lesson forever. Suddenly, a referee appears in the arena, stops the fight and says that the monkey will take 18th place in the ranking. The villain then quickly turns back and calls Song Lan trash, saying that he belongs with his trash in the hospital. Someone from the side calls out to the madman, attracting attention. The man turns out to be Wang Linghu, who comes closer and closer. The owner of the Tiger Soul is very angry after everything that happened. The scoundrel says that this matter concerns only him and Song Lan. However, this attitude makes Wang Linghu angry because it is humiliating. But the owner of the monkey's soul reminds us of the rules that a person of higher ranking cannot challenge a person of lower ranking to a duel. Swallowing nervously, Wang Linghu was so overcome with rage that his pupils became tiny. The informant watching all this swallows nervously. Suddenly, he looks at Lin Yuan, who stepped forward a little. Quickly descending into the arena, the main character offers to fight him. But the bully doesn't even know who Lin Yuan is. The young man introduces himself as Song Lan's friend, giving his name. He is only ranked 312th, which may sound funny and ridiculous. Yuan Lian loudly slapped his forehead and began to laugh at his opponent. According to the rules, the main character also has no right to challenge him, and the young man is apparently tired of living. However, the guy with a casual smile promises to fight in 12 days. Yuan Lian sweats from nerves, because this means that Lin Yuan will have to endure cruel trials every day. However, the bully agrees to wait, considering the main character a pathetic piece of trash. He promises to break all his bones and grind him into dust if he fails. Lin Yuan quickly rushes to his badly injured friend. Without shedding tears, Song Lang bitterly admits that he lost the fight. But the main character calms his friend, asking him to recover, and promising that he will deal with the scoundrel. The young man thanks the owner of the Tiger's Soul for coming out to stand up for his friend. The high-ranking member is pleasantly surprised by Lin Yuan's courage. There would be no point in entering the cruel Mo University if you were afraid of such enemies. The boys needed to save their friend, so they took Song Lan and hurried to the medical center. The Tiger Soul owner grinned and considered Lin Yuan a promising friend. Finally, the whole company arrives at the medical center. Zhao Ming asks if the protagonist was joking about fighting, and he replies that he was not. Then the informant asks with obvious suspicion what his strength is. But the young man does not reveal his cards, intending to answer a similar question in 12 days. Wang Jin comes to the 57th arena the next day. There he sees a self-confident idiot who Lin Yuan will fight. He decides not to waste time talking, but to activate soul fusion and fight as soon as possible. Laughing at the boy's self-confidence, the boy also activates his fusion. He almost instantly summons an impressive snake, which is terrifying in its size. But next to him grows an equally large lizard, covered in deadly spikes. This does not frighten the opponent, and he is already ready to rush into attack. In an instant, it suddenly enveloped Lin Yuan's body, making him unable to move. Laughing poisonously, he asks not to make any unnecessary movements and to accept death. But Lin Yuan only calls the enemy's movements not bad. However, his mouth begins to open into a wide, sharp smile. He frees himself from the grip in a second, as if tearing the snake to shreds. The main character's strength is already at the level of a beastmaster, a terrifying result. The owner of the green snake's soul is shaking from the realization of what a nightmare he has fallen into. No one wants to stand on ceremony with such a pitiful soul, and Lin Yuan grabs him into his paw. He begins to cry pitifully that he admits his defeat. After some time in the dormitory, Wang Jinzhe is amazed by the boy's true strength. He even gets an idea about how he can make good money. Everyone already knows about Lin Yuan's battle yesterday, so now you can open bets on him. The young man then reveals that his true strength is at the level of a 2-star beastmaster. Wang Jin is shocked and says that he is stronger than Song Lang, which is an incredible display of power. He is so powerful that opponents who are not in the top 20 are not at all dangerous for him. Fueled by confidence, Wang Jin is about to bet a fortune on the man. The informant believes that the guy will lead him to success. At this time, in one of the buffets, Yuan Lian is greedily devouring his lunch. Someone from behind tells him that he did a great job. It turns out that Wu Xuangu, who had heard about his victory, approached him. They start discussing the clown in 300th place who challenged the monkey. Bending down slightly, Wu Xuangu warns that Lin Yuan is already at the Beastmaster level. The owner of the monkey soul does not believe this at first, even choking. This is just a rumor. But nevertheless, any information should be taken seriously. But Yuan Lian promises not to let the weakling into the organization's affairs. Then Wu Xuangu leaves, saying that he is waiting for good news. Yuan Lian's eyes fill with hatred, because his opponent is not as simple as he seems. In a day, Lin Yuan will fight an incredibly fast man. Wang Jin came to observe his friend again. He trusts him completely, being even more inspired than yesterday. They agreed that Lin Yuan would continue to pretend in order to earn more money from bets. Then they came up with the idea of a staged duel. He will need to win, just not with much confidence. They are in for a great income, which depends only on the main character. Now at least half of the university is monitoring the man's actions. A guy comes into the arena and says that he was unlucky enough to accept the challenge from the Beastmaster. However, he still intends to show himself worthy in the eyes of the audience. He quickly activates his fusion, transforming into a tall, skinny leopard. Instantly, a large lizard appears in the arena, shocking everyone. The owner of the soul of a leopard is not afraid of his opponent. After all, his skill is equal to 9 stars, and therefore he should really annoy the enemy. He rushes towards Lin Yuan with impossible speed, like lightning. He even manages to injure the lizard's owner, causing him to lose blood. Then the leopard's ego inflates, because he sincerely believes in his victory. However, Lin Yuan intends to continue to act according to the plan. He even decides to play a little, hitting the ground with his powerful paw. Of course, it doesn't hit the enemy, but simply splits the arena floor. The leopard again rushes to attack at an impossible speed, wounding the main character. The man begins to rejoice incredibly, because he manages to overcome the master of beasts. The audience does not believe in Lin Yuan's victory at all, not even thinking that he will be able to cope. And Wang Jin, who knew about the real plan, just quietly chuckled into his palm. In the arena itself, the main character is attacked at a terrifying speed. The leopard does not stop for a second, showering the enemy with blows. His self-esteem has risen so much that he is confident of victory over the Beast Lord. However, in an instant all his confidence evaporates as he almost loses consciousness from a counterblow. His body flies into the wall, shattering it into pieces. He is unable to bear such pain, and so he turns back. A silence falls over the entire arena, which no one dares to break. In just one strike, Lin Yuan defeats a seemingly stronger opponent. He grins funny because he succeeded in his plan. The owner of the leopard soul looks at his enemy in horror. There was no way the man could avoid such a blow, and this terrified him. But the audience understands that Lin Yuan was only pretending at the beginning. Now Wang Jin looks at the crowd with a smile, satisfied with the outcome of the battle. After the fight, he praises the protagonist for his acting. It is unlikely that their plan will be figured out quickly, and therefore they can continue to try to make money. For winning, the young man will receive 2 silver treasure chests and a beast artifact. The main character breaks into a smile, because these chests can be sold. In just 5 days, Lin Yuan climbs to 142nd place. He was unable to win all the rounds because he accidentally ran into extremely strong students. Wang Jin, despite his fear, encourages his friend and partner. In order to win, Lin Yuan needs any information he can about his enemies. Then Van gives him a tablet with the collected data. It tells the story of Lei Qingming, an extremely powerful student who everyone believes in. If we defeat this idiot, the guys will take all the bets. Finally, the time has come for all the rabble to show their true strength. At this time, Su Muxue was meditating in the improved training room. To her right, some device is beeping. It turns out to be a hologram projector, and Qing Chu appears and asks if her friend will come to watch Lin Yuan's fight. But the girl is worried about how strong his enemy will be. Lei Qingming is ranked 92nd, which shows his enormous strength. It makes you wonder if the young man even has a chance of winning. However, Su Muxue seemed to have confidence in her friend. Her whole soul believes that he is very, very strong. Her friend teases her by calling Lin Yuan her boyfriend. Redness covers Su Muxue's face. Qingqiu quickly changes the subject, asking why she doesn't participate in the ranking battles. Teacher Zhao told her that there was no point in fighting for the reward, because she had to become stronger first. This is understandable, because Su Muxue is rich enough not to need rewards. The friend waves a little, saying goodbye, and promising to tell her the details of the fight. A large crowd of people gathers in the 26th arena. About half of the people placed bets on the match. This fight is incredibly important, and the main character must show his true power. The brute in the center of the arena calls for Lin Yuan to show himself. He looks around nervously with his head, as if wanting to destroy the enemy with his gaze. A few seconds later, the young man appears, and in comparison to the big guy, he is a tiny thing. It's hard to believe that such a little boy dared to challenge his elders. In the person of Lei, the young man appears as a pathetic, self-confident weakling, but he is bold enough not to give in to provocations. Both people begin to merge with the soul of the beast. All the spectators roar with delight when they see 2 giants on the battlefield. They believe in Lei Qingming's victory. The man even admits that he bet 5 million on the young man's defeat. This news takes Lin Yuan by surprise. He laughs loudly, saying thank you for such a contribution. Immediately after this, the lizard rushes forward with incredible speed. But this is impossible because Lin Yuan has a power-class soul. Lei Qingming howls, summoning green lightning. A real massacre begins between the transformed youths. At first, the enemy manages to hold back the lizard's onslaught. Lei Qingming is confident that he can at least cause serious harm to the protagonist. But in just a moment, he approaches the enemy again. This forces the 4-legged creature to create a fiery sphere of incredible temperature. He has no idea how unlucky he is. The poor guy was caught just when Lin Yuan no longer needed to hold back. An extremely hot beam of flame bursts out of the protagonist's mouth. His power begins to melt Lei Qingming's body. This kind of thing tears the enemy's body to pieces. In just 1 second, the transformed man is struck dead. The duel is over, marking Lin Yuan's victory. The people in the stands freeze in silence. Some of them open their mouths wide in amazement. What they saw was Lei Qingming, who was considered practically invincible, lying on the ground. Some of the spectators begin to cheer, because they bet money on Lin Yuan. The girl watching the fight can't believe her eyes, while remembering how much Su Muxue was confident in the boy. For victory, the main character receives a golden treasure chest. It contains a wonderful reward in the form of a bunch of evolution points and a powerful artifact. The man gains claws that can be charged with lightning, increasing his attack speed. With such a powerful weapon, he will continue to dominate the arena. Wang Jin suddenly runs into the arena. In a voice full of joy, he declares that they are incredibly rich. Thanks to this kind of money, the guys will become even stronger. Suddenly, someone from the outside compliments us on how wonderful the battle was. Wang Jin frowned and asked what the man wanted. It turns out that Yuan Lian, who appeared, only came to inquire about the well-being of his roommates. But Lin Yuan rightly notes that the scoundrel shouldn't worry about this at all. He says that he didn't even think about worrying, and only came to advise them to check on their friends. He deliberately bumps his shoulder into Wang Jin, provoking him. Yuan Lian didn't waste any time while fighting Qingming. How come such an idiot hasn't gotten tired of mocking everyone yet? But the main character allows him to rage for now. Let this worm breathe before it dies. In just 3 days, Lin Yuan manages to reach 3rd place. All this time, he was putting in tremendous effort to become more powerful. Finally, he reached the 3 stars of the Beastmaster, gaining incredible power. He can already imagine how sweet it will be to receive a reward for defeating Yuan Lian. Finally, the morning of the next day arrives. Wang Jin shares that he has decided to make money again by opening a new bet. People are no longer so bold as to bet large amounts of money, because they have seen Lin Yuan's strength. The young man is betting 6 million on himself, so he is obviously serious. Despite his outward calm, the boy is ready for battle. A little later, the guys return to the medical center to see their friends. Wang Jin even brings buns to keep up morale. Song Lan, however, remains seriously wounded, but his friends want to at least take care of him somehow by bringing him breakfast. The man took his defeat very hard, barely surviving such a blow. No one will help him in the battle with his own pride, but it is now that the young man has every chance to realize how valuable his life is. Now Lin Yuan had the honor of avenging his friends. The wounded boys can't believe it at first. They are shocked that the young man has become so strong. Sun Lun tries to warn the boy, telling him to be careful. However, Lin Yuan is confident enough in his abilities, promising not to lose. At midday, a loud roar rises in the 3rd arena. Some of the big shots are watching what's happening in the arena. Yan Lian waves casually to his biggest fan. Despite the upcoming battle, there is no fear on his face. The most important battle for raiding hunters will take place right now. The coming Wu Xuangu will enjoy the torment of the protagonist. But there is not a drop of doubt on his face. He glares at Wu Xuangu, who towers over the arena. Turning to the crowd, Yuan Lian asks the crowd if they want to know who is stronger. The self-confident, impudent fellow points his finger at himself, saying that he will be the one to take the victory. After this, the impudent man points at Lin Yuan, calling him the last one who dared to cross the hunter's path. Wu Xuangu, who had been silent until now, suddenly began to clap. The leader clearly enjoys the behavior of his charge. This even made Zhao Ming want to finish off Wu Xuangu. A man who appears nearby says that the hunters are just trying to demonstrate their strength. Wang Lingu came up and wanted to sit down with the guys. He is so confident in the main character that he bet 10 million on him. This is surprising because a person can always lose. However, he knows that it was they who organized the bets, so he decided to earn some extra money. However, one can never be completely sure of anything. Wu Xuangu also made a lot of noise, establishing himself in front of the people. I wonder how he'll react if his guard dog loses. Finally, Yuan Lian uses soul fusion. The emerging monkey begins to beat its body in rage. He literally challenges the protagonist. But such an opponent is not able to intimidate Lin Yuan. The man also uses fusion with the animal soul. With a roar and a crash, a huge lizard appears on the battlefield. 2 giants appear opposite each other, captivating the crowd of spectators. Yuan Lian is no longer willing to endure this and launches a furious attack. The first thing Lin Yuan decides to do is block. The power of his improved armor is enough to withstand the giant ape. For a while, both opponents freeze in the same position, without moving. Yuan Lian is shocked because no one has ever blocked his jumping kick before. He himself suffered from such an attack because he attacked incredibly sharp thorns. At this very moment, Lin Yuan began to accumulate destructive energy in his mouth. If the owner of the monkey soul wants to survive, then he needs to change his position as soon as possible. At the last moment, the transformed one manages to avoid an attack of colossal force. However, his body still suffers damage due to the intense heat of the outgoing beam. Even a serious student like Yuan Lian is unable to fully defend himself from the attacks. Lin Yuan has no intention of stopping, attacking again and again. This infuriates the owner of the monkey soul because he was hoping for a quick fight. The smug student puts his hands in front of his body, stopping the heat. He never even thought that he would be able to resist the attack of his enemy. Lin Yuan shouldn't be so naive. He wouldn't be able to handle such an attack. The young man's attack, which at first seemed strong, did not leave even a scratch. Lin Yuan definitely won't be able to continue at the same pace for too long. The spectators in the arena are in real shock from the unfolding carnage. The protagonist blocks the monkey's attacks, causing sparks of fire to appear on the battlefield. Suddenly, the spikes on his body begin to glow with a bright blue light. He unleashes a new blue attack, the sheer size of which is mind-boggling. It hits straight into the body of the owner of the monkey soul. The power of the energy released shocked Yuan Lian, who had never encountered anything like it before. His body lights up with a bright blue light, as if it were being torn apart. He grimaces in incredible agony from the attack that just happened. Suddenly, a large amount of blood begins to flow out of the transformed man's mouth. The sounds died down for a moment and Lin Yuan froze in place. Unable to stand upright, Yuan Lian falls to the arena floor with a thud. Everyone who watched the battle was amazed by the outcome of the battle, and Wu Xuangu, who had been watching the battle from close up the entire time, frowned his face in hatred. All the main characters' friends explode with joy for their buddy. However, Wang Linghu does not believe in such an easy victory, suspecting something is wrong. Suddenly the smoke in the arena clears and the silhouette of a monkey appears from there. In a low voice, Yuanlian admits that his enemy has exceeded all his expectations. The owner of the monkey's soul menacingly declares that the time for games is over. It's as if the enemy has been reborn and is attacking the main character again. Lin Yuan is not at all frightened by this, and opens his mouth wide. From its mouth it spews out a multitude of extremely deadly particles that are aimed at the enemy. Yuanlian dodges projectiles at a speed comparable to that of a 3-star or higher overlord. Relentlessly, the giant and deadly ape comes closer and closer. The only intention that drives Yuanlian is the desire to finish off the protagonist. Immediately after this, the impudent fellow unleashes all his power on the main character. But he stops abruptly after making contact with the boy's paw. Miraculously, Lin Yuan manages to block such a monstrously powerful attack. However, due to its 4 arms, the monkey is extremely dangerous. One of the creature's limbs is covered in blood belonging to Lin Yuan. His body suddenly turns a bright red color. A large amount of blood begins to flow from all parts of the body, even from the neck. The giant ape is overcome with rage, because this is only the beginning. He suddenly moves to the right to strike at Lin Yuan. He manages to hit the giant lizard, sending it flying to the side. The lizard's body is torn into pieces by its sharp claws. All the spectators in the arena scream with delight at the sight of such a furious fight. However, Lin Yuan chuckled lightly. Wenlian froze at this, not understanding how his opponent had the audacity to behave like this. He equips one of the claws that he was able to obtain while opening one of the chests. It turns out that monkeys aren't the only ones with artifacts. Lin Yuan's genius move was to let the enemy get closer. In just a second, the giant ape's body is torn apart. A large number of blue lightning bolts even appear from the wound. Coming closer, Lin Yuan opens his powerful mouth wide. A large number of blue spikes on his back glow blue. A deadly ball materializes in the mouth of the transformed lizard. Yuanlian, realizing that his end has come, opens his mouth in panic. An incredibly powerful clot of energy slammed straight into Yuanlian's body. A bunch of blue clumps of fog appear all over the arena. Lin Yuan's friends are frozen in shock. Once the haze clears, the entire audience sees the defeated Yuanlian. However, he continues to whisper that he has not lost yet. However, his face looks simply pathetic. Coming closer, the protagonist taunts, saying that he can continue his attacks. Wenlian rises higher and asks what the owner of the lizard soul wants. With bloodthirsty eyes, he declares that he wants to do the same thing that Yuanlian did to Zhangming and Songlan. Then an incredibly loud cry of agony is heard throughout the arena. Lin Yuan unleashes all his crushing power on the enemy. The entire crowd in the arena supports the main character, rejoicing at his victory. Yuanlian can only give up. Otherwise, he will have to forget about the national competition. But such arguments only make the monkey angry, causing him to scream in rage. He accuses the young man of constantly bullying him. Suddenly, Wu Shengu appeared nearby and intervened in the conversation. The man speaks menacingly about not going too far. However, Lin Yuan's friends are confident that everyone got what they deserved. Such arguments only made Wu Shengu smile slightly. He provokes Wang Linghu by calling the man a real loser. Wu Shengu bows down and angrily asks the protagonist to think carefully. It's unlikely that he needs the extremely dangerous guys from the raiding hunters as enemies. Suddenly, Lin Yuan calls the whole situation a misunderstanding. With a sly grin, he says that he has long since declared war on their organization. The spectators in the stands are speechless. However, the protagonist's friends watch him with fascination. Then Wuxuangu clearly hints that the guy doesn't understand what he's saying. A master-level referee loudly announces that the fight is over. But the member of the organization does not want to give up. One of the raiding hunters angrily clenches his fist. He challenges Lin Yuan again, calling for a fight to the death. Just a moment later, a bright blue ball slams the man's body into the ground. The transformed monkey falls loudly to the arena floor. Due to the massive damage, Yuanlian loses her form. All the spectators begin to cheer as they watch Lin Yuan's victory. With great honors, the young man is declared the winner of the duel. The leader of the organization is relentlessly watching everything that is happening from the outside. He speaks angrily about how the time will come to pay the bills. However, now it is finally time to celebrate victory. As a reward for defeating a superior enemy, the young man receives a golden chest. 2 happy guys run out into the arena. Lin Yuan's friends are very proud of the young man. Wang Linghu, however, reminds that Wuxuangu is very cunning and will not let this go. Next, he will most likely call upon an extremely dangerous enemy named Li Qingnan. Although there are a whole bunch of other serious candidates besides him. Wuxuangu himself is too afraid for himself and therefore will only use Li Qingnan. Wang Jinzi will definitely find all the information he needs about this person. But Wang Linghu, standing nearby, announces that he even managed to fight with him. Since the opponents are serious, everyone is interested in who won. But naturally, the owner of the tiger's soul lost. It just so happens that Lin Qingnan poses an incredible threat to everyone, and his beast soul is extremely dangerous. He calls the soul of a man not eccentric. There is even a special concept called the phyto soul. At the same time, even in the observation room, they note how good the duel was. The rector, who appeared out of nowhere, frightens the judge. The rector himself notes that Lin Yuan is very good. The young man is ruthless, experienced, determined, and rises above the other students. In addition, he demonstrates at least S-level strength. People are starting to complain about raiding hunters even more actively. However, a slippery guy like Wu Xuangu did not violate the Academy's code in any way. Unfortunately, it is natural that the world is so cruel. People face a lot of injustice every day. Finally, the moment comes when Lin Yuan ranks 18th in Qianlong's rankings. For this, he receives a 50% discount when improving his qualifications. From the sparkling golden chest, you can get 50,000 evolution points and a master-level artifact. In addition, the man receives a strange purple crystal. It stores energy to enhance the owner's attacks. The space available for cultivation is like a 4-dimensional space. The crystal in the lizard's paw begins to glow with an attractive blue light. Suddenly, Lin Yuan began to swing his limbs very quickly. He manages to charge the crystal, causing it to emit a blue glow. A little later, it cools down and seems to become dull. The companion is very happy that the crystal was filled. Replenishing such a crystal requires a large amount of energy, and it will be impossible to recharge it in battle. However, such a thing is still very destructive. But you can become stronger by absorbing evolution points, because you need to crush the raiding hunters. The main character is the only one who trains at such a late hour. Suddenly, Lin Yuan receives a call in the form of a hologram. Appearing in the advanced cultivation room, Wang Jinze is surprised by her wealth. The young man boasts that all this is done with money he earned. As expected, Li Qingnan declared war on Lin Yuan. After a crushing victory over Yuan Lian, there was no way to back down from the fight. The protagonist is so confident in himself that he wants to open the bets again. This time, the boy wants to bet 20 million on himself. Encouraged, Wang Jinze, hearing this, says he will bet 30. This is a colossally huge amount of money that is not available to every mortal. It turns out the duel is scheduled for tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the evening. Since the fight promises to be spectacular, there should be a lot of stakes. On the evening of the second day, Wang Jinze was already busy with betting. Some of the spectators on their way to the arena were animatedly discussing the upcoming fight. The boys, however, do not dare to believe in the strength of the main character. If everything works out according to plan, a fortune can be made from such mistrust. Finally, Lin Yuan himself appears in sight. The duel was supposed to start at 7, but the young man trained until 5:30. However, the boys should enter the arena a little earlier. However, before that, Lin Yuan suggests that they run in for a bite to eat, since he hasn't had dinner yet. Wang Jinze doesn't understand how one can be so frivolous. The third dining hall, which belongs to the academy, contains a large number of delicious dishes. Wang Jin spent a lot of money on good food for the boy so that he would have strength. It's strange that the guy usually pretends that he has no money, although he himself is the rector's son. However, the young man simply wants to show that he is not a freeloader. He still keeps even his beast soul a secret. With a grin, he simply says that it's easier to find out for yourself. At night, an incredible crowd of spectators gathers in the first arena. Wang Jinze promises to look for Wang Linghu and Zhao Ming. Nodding, Lin Yuan glanced around the stands. Of course, he is being watched by that scoundrel Wu Xuangu. The leader of the raiding hunters had no intention of forgiving the main character for all his antics. It's just a pity that such a scoundrel won't be able to destroy the young man. Finally, the silhouette of a second person appears in the arena. Li Qingnan, the owner of the demonic vine soul, looks quite simple. However, he, like other ratings hunters, turns out to be an arrogant jerk. He brazenly suggests that Lin Yuan should no longer provoke those who are higher in ranking. But the young man replies with a grin that he doesn't need any advice. The arena becomes noisy immediately after the announcer introduces himself to the audience. They all gathered here to see a fierce battle and an interesting spectacle. Not wanting to waste any more time, Lin Yuan begins to merge with his beast soul. The opponent, who was very close, at first only smirked. When he uses fusion, a nightmarish-looking vine materializes in the arena. The revived plant has many shoots with thorns. They all rush inexorably towards Lin Yuan, threatening to tie his hands and feet. But the young man considers all this to be nonsense. He quickly activates his claw, which he got from the chest earlier. With colossal speed, he begins to chop the shoots into many small pieces. At first, it seems that Li Qingnan, who has climbed so high, is somehow holding on. But it's too early to really rejoice, because such an experienced fighter is simply testing the waters. The true power of the demonic vine lies elsewhere. Lin Yuan doesn't understand anything at first, and thinks that the fight ahead of him is too easy. However, despite the lost limbs, Li Qingnan completes his analysis of the enemy. Finally, the time had come to put an end to the arrogant Lin Yuan. The vine wraps around his arms and binds them to the arena floor, preventing him from moving. The audience, who had not known about Li Qingnan's strength until now, was shocked. One of the abilities of such a beast soul is extremely strong regeneration. Li Qingnan's massive silhouette obscures the entire arena. All of his limbs point towards Lin Yuan to pierce his body. The young man concentrates a clot of energy in his mouth, not understanding how to fight the demonic vine. The body of the vine dissolves from the incredible heat that pierces it through and through. Spectators are amazed at how skillfully the young man managed to destroy so many vines. Lee Kingnan is completely angry at his rival for such humiliation. But he still has to show something new to surprise Lin Yuan. The enemy then creates a large number of deadly vines again, wrapping them around the lizard's body. Despite his strength, Lin Yuan would not be able to withstand a frontal attack from such a monster. Even good preparation and training are unlikely to help in such a deadly situation. Exhaling, Wang Jinzi sat back down on the bench. He strained his body, as if mentally addressing the fighting Lin Yuan. An endless number of sprouts appear in the arena again, attacking from all sides. Trying to somehow protect himself from the dangerous enemy, Lin Yuan spews blue rays in all directions. One breath is not enough to fight the monster from the 4th place in the ranking. One of the vines manages to sneak up on the lizard's back. It crunches through the protagonist's spine. Several more vines mercilessly pierce the giant lizard's body, causing monstrous pain. The sharp vines pierced Lin Yuan's body, piercing him to the very bones. The boy's friend freezes in horror, unable to believe what is happening. The owner of the demon vine's soul coldly asks if the protagonist is ready to surrender and beg for mercy. The vines greedily suck the energy out of Lin Yuan, leaving him weaker with each passing second. Li Qingnan reveals his second ability, the merciless absorption of others' power. Dozens of sharp appendages pierce the young man's body, tearing flesh, causing unbearable pain. But he grits his teeth, refusing to beg for mercy even as his breath catches. The owner of the lizard soul releases claws that shine like blades. With one furious blow, he slices through the vines, loosening their grip. This gives him a chance to escape the enemy's deadly embrace. Lin Yuan clearly understands that neither long-range attacks nor close combat will help now. Fresh vines pierce his body, crippling every muscle. For a moment, he freezes, as if turning into a statue. Both fighters freeze in tense silence. Suddenly, Lin Yuan's mouth twisted into a beastly grin, filling with deadly power. But Li Qingnan is already prepared for this. He knows about the nuclear breathing technique. Without stopping the onslaught, he continues to attack furiously. To back up his defenses, he creates a thick shield of intertwined vines. The next moment, a blinding ball of energy crashes into the barrier. There is a deafening roar, and the arena shakes from the impact. The audience froze in shock, not believing that the attack had been blocked. The smoke clears to reveal an intact green barrier. Li Qingnan stands unharmed, but there is tension in his eyes. Even he didn't expect such a monstrous force of impact. Victory is still on his side. Lin Yuan has no chance. The owner of the lizard's soul only smirks, looking at his unlucky opponent. The demonic vine realizes that each one has only one final blow left. The spikes on Lin Yuan's back flash with a blue energy glow. He hissed that without the energy crystal, defeat would have been inevitable. But now the situation has changed, and fortune has smiled on him. The demonic vine is confused, its mind unable to comprehend what kind of crystal the enemy is referring to. Lin Yuan's mouth opens into a beastly grin, and from its depths, a crushing stream of energy bursts forth, sweeping away everything in its path. Li Qingnan's eyes widen, his mind refusing to believe that what was happening was real. Hands convulsively rise up, trying at the last moment to erect a protective barrier. The demonic vine frantically weaves a shield, the vines intertwining in a panicked pattern. But the power of the attack is relentless, and the shield crumbles to dust, and the creature itself is torn apart under the unstoppable pressure. Lin Yuan's friends were frozen in shock, their hearts pounding at the realization of his power. One blow and the enemy is defeated, his resistance broken in the blink of an eye. Li Qingnan's body, like a rag doll, was thrown back with monstrous force. The stone wall cracks and crumbles under the body that hit it, leaving a bloody trail. A few seconds pass, and the defeated body falls heavily into the dust of the arena. The great and formidable Li Qingnan lies lifeless, his legend erased in an instant. The stands explode with a roar of voices. The spectators cannot contain their delight and shock. Even Wang Linghu, the mighty red tiger, feels proud of his friend. The referee's voice booms over the arena, announcing the end of the fight. From the darkness, Wu Xuangu silently looks at Lin Yuan. The face is distorted by a grimace of rage, every feature twisted with hatred. He glances at his fallen ally, his eyes filled with contempt and anger. Lin Yuan grinned in victory, calling this just the first gift for the enemy. Wu Xuangu straightens up to his full height, warning the hated boy of the consequences. Lin Yuan coldly reminds that the ranking hunters should also think about the consequences of their actions. His voice hardens as he remembers the beaten Zhao Ming who refused to submit to their will, and also the seriously wounded Song Lan who suffered for his loyalty to a friend. Such brazen cruelty will not go unanswered, and the hunters know this very well. Wu Shenggu smiles wryly, calling it all a simple misunderstanding. Yes, his friends were treated cruelly, but is it ever any different in a fight? He is even willing to apologize to Zhao Ming on behalf of the entire organization. With a theatrical gesture, he extends his hand as if offering peace. His voice sounds sweet as he invites Lin Yuan and Song Lan to join their ranks. He does not skimp on promises, promising them fabulous amounts of money. The stands are stunned. No one expected such a proposal. Lin Yuan smirked and asked if Wu Xuangu had offered the same conditions to Chu Tianyi. Wu Xuangu's face distorts, pretending not to understand what is being said. Lin Yuan accuses him of hypocrisy, because he recruits the strong while trampling on the weak. This was why Chu Tianyi refused to have anything to do with them. He will not stoop to the level of pathetic jackals. Their organization is just a gathering of cowardly parasites, not a serious force. Lin Yuan's friends turn pale, realizing that he has crossed all boundaries. However, the stands loudly support him, their shouts merging into a single roar. Wu Xuangu clenched his fists. Never before had he been humiliated so publicly. The main character understands that the man is not at all happy with his bullying. Lin Yuan shrugs his shoulders. He doesn't care who is in front of him. He is ready to tear apart any opponent. Wu Xuangu realizes that he is now forced to play a deadly game. This realization makes his blood boil with impotent rage. Later, the friends gather together to celebrate the victory. Van, without stinginess, pays for treats for the whole company. To celebrate their triumph, they order the most expensive dishes on the menu. 45 million won-on bets allows them to have no limits. Lin Yuan refuses alcohol, planning to go to training after the party. This kind of discipline commands respect from those gathered. After some persuasion, he finally takes a sip of wine. Seeing this, the friends burst into joyful exclamations. Wang Linghu is amazed by Lin Yuan's incredible progress. Song Lan sincerely thanks his friend for restoring his honor. Everyone understands that Wu Xuangu will not forgive such humiliation and will definitely strike from behind. Lin Yuan has become a real threat to the entire hunter organization, but he knows that he can count on the support of his friends at any moment. Finally, the company relaxes and immerses itself in the festive atmosphere. Meanwhile, the owner of the monkey soul comes to consciousness. He whispers to Wu Xuangu about recruiting the youth, but both of them realize that it is impossible. Wu Xuangu roughly thrusts a healing elixir at Yuan Lian. The young man tries to refuse, knowing the value of such a gift. Wu Xuangu recalls plans to compete together at national competitions. Throwing the elixir on the bed, he quickly leaves the room. The door slams behind him. In the corridor, he hisses through his teeth that all his allies are worthless scum. After some time, he knocks on the door of the vice-rector's office. A low, menacing voice comes from behind the door, giving permission to enter. Wu Xuangu slowly opens the door and stands still on the threshold. It turns out that the university's vice-rector is his uncle. The vice-principal contemptuously calls Wu Xuangu a worthless nephew. Li Xiangui, the senior vice-principal, coldly remarks that the boy has made a fatal mistake. He accuses his nephew of imagining himself to be a hero, while in fact he is a fool. The reason for all his failures lies in his own weakness and short-sightedness. Uncle reminds him that he gave him every opportunity, but Wu Xuangu was never able to rise above third place. The mighty Li Xiangui ponders with disgust why his nephew turned out to be so clueless. Finally, he sharply asks why he came. Wu Xuangu vows to personally deal with Lin Yuan and restore his reputation. But my uncle warns me not to rush into battle without 100% certainty of victory. The national tournament is about to begin, and all eyes will be on the participants. Only a worthy performance can prove that Wu Xuangu is worthy of being the leader. Li Xiangui takes care of all other issues. In the training hall, a friend excitedly tells Su Mu Shui about Lin Yuan's victory. The girl feels her heart fill with joy and pride for him. She trained hard herself to earn the right to participate in raiding fights. Naturally, the question arises as to who she will choose as her opponent. Su Mu Shi is determined to punish Wu Xuangu for all the insults he has directed at Lin Yuan. Meanwhile, the young man himself finds himself in a majestic capital, where there is absolutely everything. Together with Xiao Heilong, he enters a luxurious shopping hall. The consultant smiles indulgently, confident that these two will not be able to afford anything. Lin Yuan is interested in artifacts for storage. The seller's face immediately brightens up, because such goods cost a fortune. Soon they reach the 12th floor, where rare artifacts are on display. Among them are special storage facilities that are extremely valuable to any warrior. A powerful fighter like Lin Yuan needs a large storage space. The consultant demonstrates a model for 5 million with a volume of 20 cubic meters. Lin Yuan agrees, but then asks about the lower cultivation crystals. He shocks the girl by asking for an incredible amount of 100,000 pieces. The guy lies, saying that his mentor needs them to conduct experiments. Hearing this, the consultant immediately changes his attitude, wanting to fulfill such an order. The total amount of purchases is an astronomical 20 million. Suddenly, Lin Yuan's gaze lingered on an unusual exhibit. In front of him lies a miniature blue artifact, shaped like a bird feather. Xiao Heilong explains that this item greatly increases reaction speed and agility. In individual fights, such an advantage is invaluable. However, The price of 12 million makes you think. The companion offers to borrow money, and Lin Yuan calls Wang Jinze. After a short conversation, the friend agrees to help without hesitation. Soon the consultant hands over the first acquisitions to Lin Yuan. Then the young man suddenly declares his desire to buy the blue feather as well. Inside, the consultant girl is jubilant, anticipating huge commissions. So in 5 minutes, Lin Yuan squandered all his wealth. Returning to the dorm, he finds his friends gathered. They suggest going to the upcoming lecture together. Lin Yuan counters that attending lectures is not mandatory, but Song Lan insists that this lecture will be extremely useful. This topic is about the critical difference between the levels of the Lord and the King. The lecture will be given personally by Teacher Zhao, which is a great rarity. This is a unique chance for Lin Yuan to break through to the King level. When they arrive, the lecture hall is already packed to capacity. Teacher Torjiao is incredibly popular among students. All the seats in the front rows are taken even before the lecture begins. Wang Jinze confidently declares that he will provide his friends with the best seats. He approaches the seated students and offers each one 10,000 for their seats. Instantly, dozens of hands shoot up in agreement to the lucrative deal. Wang Jinze rubs his hands together, pleased with his own resourcefulness. The teacher solemnly enters the classroom. Thorjiao's gaze immediately landed on Lin Yuan, and approval flashed in his eyes. A stately man steps up to the podium and begins to speak in a powerful voice. The theme of advancing to the King level has students on the edge of their seats. He explains that those stuck at the Overlord level were unable to find harmony with their beast soul. These words penetrated into Lin Yuan's heart, causing him to tensely clench his fists. A quiet hum begins in the hall, and the students look at each other in confusion. Torjiao reveals the essence of the path as a complete fusion of a person with the essence of his animal soul. Even the genius Songlan frowned at first, not immediately grasping the meaning. The teacher gives a personal example, talking about 6 months of wandering along mountain paths. He describes how he sought reflections of the Earth's power in majestic landscapes. And then came the moment of epiphany. The strength of the bear and the power of the Earth became an integral part of his being. Suddenly, the audience is filled with the crushing energy of his beast soul. Every word of the teacher is captivating, awakening in the listeners a thirst for knowledge. He emphasizes that everyone's path is unique, just as their soul is unique. Everyone must comprehend the truth independently, through personal experience. Torjiao mentions Zhang Yang as the greatest king-level master. The news of his 3 years of hard training causes shock among the students. This is exactly the kind of persistence that most students lack. Understanding comes not through memorization, but through revelation in one's own consciousness. After the lecture, the friends remain in the empty auditorium, heatedly discussing what they heard. Wang Jinzhou and Zhao Ming honestly admit that they did not understand the essence of the teaching. Sun Lan's face lights up with a sudden insight, and he realizes the need to merge with his beast essence. Perhaps it is time to fully embrace the unique nature of your animal soul. From the outside, it seems that Sun Lan's thinking has reached genuine greatness. He managed to grasp the essence of a complex lecture with astonishing speed. The teacher who came up looked questioningly at Lin Yuan, and he admitted that he had not yet decided on his path. However, Torjiao nods approvingly, noting the incredible speed of the young man's progress. Lin Yuan returns the borrowed miniature storage to the teacher. Suddenly, the teacher gives alarming news that Wuxuan Gu has been sent on a secret mission. It turns out that Vice-Rector Li Xiangui personally gave him this assignment. There is a long-standing feud between the Vice-Rector and the Director of the University, which the former takes advantage of. Torjiao firmly promises to support him no matter what happens. The change of day and night finds Lin Yuan in continuous training and meditation. He has already reached the 4th star of the Overlord level. However, this progress required a colossal expenditure of resources. Xiao Heilong invites you to try out an extreme combat training regimen. The description contains frightening images of monsters of incredible strength. Each of these creatures is capable of ending a human life with one blow. The system will select an opponent that exactly matches Lin Yuan's current capabilities. After some deliberation, the choice falls on the 5-star armored monkey. A simple press of a button and the reality around you is instantly transformed. The electronic voice coldly states that the simulation of the battle with the armored monkey has been successfully completed. Lin Yuan was momentarily lost in space, not knowing where he was. A gigantic figure of the armored monkey materializes in front of him, emitting a deadly aura. The monster rushes to attack, but the young man manages to put out his paw for defense. The force of the blow shakes him to the bone, such is the power of a 5-star creature. Now he understands from his own experience the difference in levels of development. The maddened monkey unleashes a hail of crushing blows on him. Lin Yuan instantly equips his legendary claw. He performs a lightning-fast grab by the throat, accompanied by discharges of electricity. However, even razor-sharp claws cannot pierce armored flesh. The monster's neck turns out to be protected no less reliably than the rest of the body. The monkey bares his teeth in an evil grin, seeing the enemy's confusion. The next moment, a monstrous fist crashed down on Lin Yuan with incredible force. A blow of such power crushes even the lizard's armored form. The fist breaks through the defense, causing fountains of scarlet blood to flow. Lin Yuan falls to the ground with a thud. His body is forcibly returned to human form. The system's emotionless voice states death in the simulation. The pain feels so real that it causes involuntary trembling. In a real fight, such a mistake would have cost him his life. Only a thorough analysis of the enemy's weak points will lead to victory. Realizing that their strength is comparable, Lin Yuan decides to try again. The simulation will restart after 1 minute. The giant silhouette of the armored monkey appears before him again. This time, Lin Yuan immediately uses nuclear breath. But the monster shows frightening speed, dodging the beam. The monster rises into the air, preparing to crush him with its weight. However, the old techniques no longer work against Lin Yuan. It activates the blue agility artifact purchased earlier. The body reacts instantly, allowing you to avoid a crushing blow. Taking advantage of the moment, Lin Yuan counterattacks. The nuclear breath projectile slams into the monster's chest. The force of the blow sends the armored monkey flying back several meters. Without giving them time to recover, Lin Yuan continued his heavy bombardment. Blood gushes from the monster's mouth, and its movements lose confidence. In a final sprint, Lin Yuan raises his claw for a fatal blow. With all his might, he thrusts it into the opponent's body. This time the armor gives way and the claw penetrates deep inside. With a victorious roar, Lin Yuan rips out the bloody claw. His form gradually returns to human form. The body is still tense, as if expecting a new attack. The system dryly reports victory in the simulation. This fight proved that knowing the enemy is more important than brute force. Meanwhile, teachers are gathering in the university director's office. Vice Rector Li Xiangui enters noticeably late. He slyly says that he doesn't feel well. Taking a seat, he pretends to listen attentively. Playing the role of a model employee, he gestures for the meeting to continue. The main issue on the agenda is the approval of the list of participants in the national tournament. A sudden notification sound interrupts the discussion. Li Xiangui laughs awkwardly, pretending that he accidentally forgot to turn off the sound. The Vice Rector causes a dull irritation. His presence seems to get on my nerves. He methodically provokes those around him, sometimes openly, sometimes surreptitiously. The first candidates on the list are Song Lan and Sumu Xue. Sumu Xue had already reached the colossal SSS rank. Her strength was undeniable. No one dares to challenge her candidacy. A teacher at a distance brings forward the name Chu Tianyi. This is how 3 main positions are formed. The vice principal proposes Wu Xuangu's candidacy with a cold smile. Many teachers nod in agreement with his choice. Wu Xuangu not only has strength, but also the iron will of a leader. Li Xiangui sarcastically asks not to thank him for such a good offer. Tor Zhao insists on Lin Yuan's candidacy, citing his increased strength. Someone in the crowd mockingly reminds him that Tor Zhao is the boy's fellow countryman and mentor. Besides, Lin Yuan is only E rank. The whole city will ridicule the university if such a weakling enters the ring. These words cause Tor Zhao to slam the table, his face contorted in rage. The young man is too strong to ignore his participation in national competitions. The vice rector condescendingly asks the teacher to pull himself together. We need guarantees that Lin Yuan will not disgrace the university in front of the entire country. He can be given a chance, but then Tor Zhao will take full responsibility. The fact that Lin Yuan is ranked 4th speaks volumes. Some teachers are reluctant to accept this argument. The vice rector throws up his hands, pretending to care about the university's reputation. After all, the main character is only E rank. Li Xiangui barely hides his gloating. His desire to harm the protagonist is obvious. The director unexpectedly supports the vice rector. His voice sounds incontrovertible. Many people are frozen in bewilderment, not expecting such a turn of events. The university is obliged to minimize any risks. The director's words sound logical, but they are tinged with cold calculation. However, it would be cruel and unfair to deprive Lin Yuan of his chance. Tor Zhao does not hide his relief when the director finally agrees to such a candidate. The vice rector maintains an icy smile, but black shadows dance in his eyes. Rage boils in his chest. The outcome is clearly not in his favor. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan stands outside the training center, unsuspecting. Wang Jinze quickly runs up to him, his face distorted with worry. It turns out that Sumu Xue challenged Shen Chang. This is madness because Shen Chang is truly a deadly opponent. Lin Yuan's heart sank with fear as he rushed towards the first arena. He is obviously worried about his longtime girlfriend. The first arena is already surrounded by a noisy crowd, spectators eager for a spectacle. Sumu Xue's power can be felt even from a distance, the air trembling with her energy. Shenting appears in the arena, his snowfang beast soul emitting chilling terror. He fights Sumu Xue, whose snow nine-tailed fox soul is incredibly powerful and dangerous. The transformed girl moves with grace and strength beyond the capabilities of ordinary warriors. She easily dodges the enemy's furious attacks. Shen Chang's body is covered in bloody wounds, but he does not retreat. Even mortally wounded, he remains a formidable fighter. Gathering his last strength, he rushes forward to deliver the decisive blow. Rearing up, he raises his claws for a killing blow. The icy blades on his claws glitter, ready to rip his opponent's flesh to shreds. Snowfang unleashes all his fury on his foe, his claws tearing through the air with an icy whistle. At the last moment, he realizes that his blow passed through empty space. The snow nine-tailed fox was already hovering above him, having eluded the fatal blow. His attack causes the arena to crack and the stone slabs to rise like waves. Xincheng, the terror of the university, lies prostrate, his body mangled. Su Musa towered over him, her 9 tails flickering with a cold glow. Through clenched teeth, he hoarsely admits defeat. Lin Yuan froze in amazement, not expecting such power from her friend. The stands explode with jubilant shouts. The students cannot contain their delight. After the fight, Su Muxue walks towards Lin Yuan, her steps light and graceful. Her smile is warm and serene, as if after a simple workout. She admits that she wanted to summon Wu Xuangu, but he mysteriously disappeared. She did all this for him, to protect his honor and reputation. Lin Yuan smiled softly, calling her battle magnificent. There are whispers all around, and the envious glances of the students slide over the couple. Originally, he was going to challenge Shen Chang himself. The girl is slightly embarrassed, justifying herself with the best of intentions. He lowers his eyes, reassuring her, and says he will find another opponent. His gaze lights up with determination. The next target will be the formidable Chu Tianyi. This fighter is so strong that even Shen Kong and Wu Xuangu pale in comparison to him. Su Musha clenched her fists, worry for the protagonist flashing in her eyes. A conversation with a teacher comes to mind, every word clear and weighty. At that time, she herself was eager to challenge the top 10 on Qianlong's list. The teacher warned her that she could handle anyone except Chu Tianyi. The girl squeezes Lin Yuan's hand, her voice trembling with excitement, but she promises support. The main character is silent, doubts gnaw at him, but deep down in his soul, determination has already ignited. Su Mushui looks at him with admiration, such willpower amazes her. Torjiao appears next to him, his voice proud and warm. He smiles, but there is a seriousness in his gaze. He believes in his student. Students bow their heads respectfully to their teachers. Suddenly Thor announces that Lin Yuan will not be able to summon Chu Tianyi. The guy freezes in a daze, his thoughts confused. It turns out that the list of participants has already been approved, and his name is on it. Lin Yuan finds himself on the list, but only as a substitute member. Li Xiang did everything to remove him, and this was the only compromise. Torjiao sighs heavily, but there is satisfaction in his eyes, for he did what he could. Su Muxue was flushed with indignation. Her cheeks were flushed with indignation. She turns around sharply, ready to go to the teacher and demand justice. A hand suddenly grabs her wrist, stopping her in her tracks. The girl turns around, her eyes full of bewilderment and question. Lin Yuan squeezed her hand, his gaze firm and unyielding. He slowly shakes his head, as if cutting off the very possibility of such an act. The list was approved unanimously and no changes are possible now. The unpleasant truth that the vice principal is Wu Xuangu's uncle comes to mind. That's why he's so fiercely opposed to Lin Yuan's participation. The young man understands that he has become a pawn in someone else's game, a bargaining chip in the struggle for influence. He sincerely thanks Torjiao, bowing deeply to his mentor. Even being a substitute gives him a chance, which means there is still hope. His eyes are shining with determination, and he will prove to everyone that he deserves more. This calm acceptance of the situation surprises Torjiao. He expected a violent reaction. Wang Jinzhou suggests talking to his father to correct the injustice, but Lin Yuan just smiled and waved his hand. He hands Wang Jin a list of participants. He reluctantly takes the paper, his face distorted by a sarcastic grin. Among the names, he unexpectedly discovers his own. Su Mushu's eyes widened. This came as a complete surprise. Wang Jinzhou sighed bitterly, once again cursing his relationship with the director. Torjiao couldn't nominate him. That was completely out of the question. It turns out that Li Xiangyi saw incredible potential in him. It becomes clear that this is just a cruel mockery of a weak student. The situation is made worse by the fact that Wang Jinzai's beast spirit is completely non-combatant. He clenches his fists, determined not to reveal his beast soul in public. Thor Zhao puts his hand on his shoulder, trying to provide some support. Each participant in the tournament is promised a fabulous reward. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up at the thought of that kind of money. The students will receive resources worth 50 million, which is a fortune. This is a unique chance to acquire the rarest artifacts and materials. Lin Yuan and Su Muxue looked at each other, their faces glowing with joyful excitement. Meanwhile, the university director looks gloomily out the window of his office. His face is distorted by heavy thoughts. A shadow of doubt has settled in his eyes. The director sighs heavily before turning to Mr. In. He dryly asks him to knock before entering next time. The hooded man just smirks, advising the director to get used to his manners. He confidently states that the director's son is strong enough to participate. The men are deep in discussion of the students' prospects, their voices hushed. The conversation gradually turns to Lin Yuan. His name seems to be floating in the air. The director notes that the young man does not at all look like an ordinary first-year student. Mr. Ying suddenly states that he feels a strange resemblance to this guy. The director freezes, his eyebrows rising in surprise. He suggests that Mr. Ying take Lin Yuan as his disciple after the tournament. However, he coldly refuses, stating that he is not interested in new students. The director frowns in disappointment. This news clearly upsets him. There is a glimmer of annoyance in his eyes that such a talented student will be wasted. A few days later, in the treasury, a strange old man looks at the group skeptically. Lin Yuan, Songlan, and Wang Jinze stand silently in front of him. Tor Zhao approached and handed over a document with the director's seal. The old man nods reluctantly, letting them pass, but his gaze is full of distrust. He warns that once the time is up, they will have to leave immediately. Tor Zhao places a reassuring hand on Old Man Cheng's shoulder, promising to look after them. The old man softens, a rare smile lighting his wrinkled face. Addressing the students, Tor Zhao tells the legend of a warrior who stopped the tide of beasts. This warrior was Cheng Tongji himself, and therefore he had to be treated with respect. However, his feet cost him severe wounds that never healed completely. If he were healthy, his strength would still inspire awe. Although there are rumors about his bad temper, he treats Tor Zhao warmly. The teacher explains this by saying that the old man saw potential in him. The students enter the treasury, their eyes dazzled by the abundance of objects. The first floor is filled with ordinary artifacts that are not of great value. It has everything from rare potions to forbidden techniques and enchanted weapons. To increase your power, you need to find a treasure that resonates with your soul. Lin Yuan's gaze was involuntarily drawn to the strange glow in the corner of the hall. His legs carry him towards a mysterious blue artifact, emitting pulsating energy. On the shelf rests a miniature nuclear reactor with a price tag of 30 million, its surface shimmering with a cold blue light. As soon as the young man's fingers touch the device, a wave of familiar tingling runs through his body. The reactor's energy seems to have been created for him. It resonates harmoniously with his own power. Meanwhile, Tor Zhao patiently waits for the students at the exit, arms crossed over his chest. When they appear, he asks curiously about their choice. Songlan displays a set of rare herbs to enhance his beast soul. Wang Jinze smiles slyly as he shows off an expensive artifact that he plans to resell at a profit. The teacher raises an eyebrow questioningly as he addresses Lin Yuan. He just shrugs his shoulders carelessly, calling his find a useful trinket. The next moment, he takes out a nuclear reactor, causing everyone to jump back sharply. Wang Jinze's face turned pale, instinctively taking a step back from the dangerous device. Tor Zhao raises his hand in a reassuring manner, because if the artifact was truly dangerous, it wouldn't be kept here. He explains that the reactor's radiation is perfectly compatible with Lin Yuan's nature, whose lizard has similar energy. The young man said in a satisfied tone that he had spent all his 30 million on this. The mentor gathers them in a circle to discuss future plans. Songlan and Lin Yuan unanimously decide to devote the remaining time to intensive training. Wang Jinze, trying to hide the trembling in his voice, declares that he will join them. The team agrees to meet on Friday to travel together to the tournament. Everyone nods in agreement, determination evident in each person's eyes. Back at the dorm, Lin Yuan immediately shows the reactor to Xiao Heilong. He examines the artifact and reports the unpleasant news that the device is disposable. The boy freezes in shock, his eyebrows almost disappearing under his bangs. Xiao Heilong explains that it is better to save the reactor for the decisive moment, and it will give a temporary but colossal boost to power. In addition, after using it, Lin Yuan will receive precious evolution points. The young man's face lights up with the understanding that he now has a real trump card in reserve. 3 days fly by unnoticed, and then the long-awaited Friday arrives. The rank hunters team is also preparing for battle. Their voices can be heard from afar. Lin Yuan met his opponent's gaze, and his face instantly turned stony. The ominous figure of Li Xiangge appears in the crowd, his piercing gaze immediately finding Lin Yuan. He whispers something to his nephew. Their gazes, full of hatred, are directed towards the main character. Lin Yuan vows to himself that he will one day take revenge on the vice principal for removing him from the main list. Their gazes meet in the air like steel blades. Wuxuan Gu clenches his fists, promising to deal with this upstart personally. The crowd suddenly parts, letting in a beaming Sumu Shui. Next to her, a stern Lin Shuangyue walked, her face expressionless. Suddenly everyone becomes quiet, and a tall, stately young man comes out onto the platform. This is Chu Tianyi himself, the undisputed leader of the rankings. His presence is felt physically. Lin Yuan swallowed involuntarily, feeling goosebumps running down his spine. Now that everyone is gathered, we can begin preparing for departure. The director raises his hand, demanding silence for the opening speech. He advises everyone to know the limits of their strength. You must know your enemy and yourself to win battles. Song Lan, sitting next to Chu Tianyi, carefully asks if he is interested in information about his rivals. Chu Tianyi slowly turns his head, his face completely expressionless. He is not at all interested in those he has already defeated. Such confidence borders on madness, causing those around him to involuntarily shudder. Lin Yuan looked at Chu Tianyi in fascination, a burning curiosity gripping him as to how strong he really was. Wang Jinzi stands up to brief the team on the enemy's information. In addition to their university in Yanjing, dozens of other top schools are participating in the tournament. Even the wielder of the Demon Vine looks worried, for the competition this year is incredible. There are too many real geniuses. The stakes are too high. For example, people like the captain of the Xuchang University team, Chen Zhushen. He has been training since childhood. His skills are close to perfection. His strength reaches the 6th star of the Beastmaster, which is a terrifying level. Even the weakest on their team is superior to many masters. However, the gap between universities is not as great as it seems. Xucheng University is a formidable opponent, but not invincible. Suddenly, Wang Jinzi reveals shocking news. There is a freshman with the power of 8 stars in Yanjing University. There is a collective gasp of horror on the bus. And this is just a newbie who just arrived. He's not even the strongest on his team. A true monster, Xu Xiao, whose destructive power is beyond measure. A deathly silence reigns in the salon, broken only by the students' quickened breathing. Against such monsters, even defeat will not be shameful. The director firmly states that they must fight for first place, at any cost. Chu Tianyi nods calmly, for he knows no defeat. Wuxuangu crosses his arms over his chest, his eyes burning with ambition. Wang Lingu growls in agreement, his beastly nature demanding battle. The director looks approvingly at the united team, pride flashing in his eyes. The vice-rector coughs into his fist, offering to choose a team captain. The director slowly looked over the students, assessing each one. His choice falls on Chu Tianyi. This decision is beyond doubt. The vice-rector strokes his beard, pretending to agree with the choice. He then slyly suggests that Wu Xuangu and Song Lan be appointed as deputies. Their characters and abilities complement each other perfectly. With this decision, the team finally sets off. Lin Yuan looks at his companions. All of them have strength above 5 stars. Compared to them, he feels like a pathetic weakling. Su Mushui gently touches his shoulder, noting that he has been drawing something on paper for half an hour now. Her presence instantly dispels dark thoughts, and his face lights up with a smile. The girl whispers that she believes in his untapped potential. Lin Yuan blinked in surprise, as he didn't expect such confidence in himself. In response, Su Mushui gives him a dazzling smile that makes his heart beat faster. Suddenly Wang Jin appears, out of breath, his face expressing extreme importance. Both students are on alert, expecting sensational news. The fat man solemnly announces that the director will personally conduct training with them at the bathhouse center. Lin Yuan and Su Mushui exchange glances, as this sounds like a bad joke. The director explains that you need to relax well before the competition. But Lin Yuan suspects that there is some cunning plan behind this. He couldn't help but admire how quickly Su Mushui was progressing. The girl blushes from such words, lowering her eyes. She admits that she trained to the point of exhaustion to keep up with him. The bus is already approaching Yanjing, the city lights. Lin Yuan feels that incredible challenges await him here. Zhao approaches the director, asking for directions to the hotel. He smiles mysteriously, insisting on visiting the bath center. Half an hour later, the team stands in front of a luxurious health complex. They are greeted by a group of stunningly beautiful maids in traditional attire. A plump man with a radiant smile comes out to meet the group. The director greets him warmly, calling him by his first name, Huan Pan. The man bows, calling it an honor to accept such talented students. He invites everyone to enter the luxurious hall with marble columns. On the 2nd floor there is a special bathhouse, usually closed to visitors. The healing properties of these waters can greatly enhance the potential of beginners. Lin Yuan and his friends are stunned by this possibility. A spacious hall with gold trim opens up before them. Servants in white robes pour a strange solution into the water. It turns out that this is powder from the bone of a barbarian giant worth 50 million. Such rare ingredients can be a decisive advantage in the tournament. The director urges the students to prepare for the procedure faster. One by one, the team members dive into the healing waters. Within a few minutes, fatigue leaves their bodies. Someone plops down next to Lin Yuan, but he is too absorbed in what is happening. Su Mushu's mentor refuses to join, citing modesty. The director shows off the crystal core of a king-level monster. Absorbing such an artifact gives a temporary but powerful boost to strength. For Lin Yuan, even seeing such a relic was a rare occurrence. This entire bathhouse was prepared specifically for the absorption procedure. The director throws the crystal into the water, which instantly changes color. The water is filled with energy, pleasantly tingling the skin. Lin Yuan feels his stats skyrocketing. In just one session, he gets 10,000 evolution points. All students are eager to absorb the new energy. Then the teacher shows the core of the Bear King. She warns that one must be careful with this artifact. With these words, she throws the crystal into the water. Waves of energy spread throughout the pool. Even Li Xiangui can't help but add his crystal core. He quickly plunges the artifact into the water, creating new energy waves. The students are stunned as 3 royal-level relics are in one place. The principal encourages students to focus on practice, and teachers help them. Thor Zhao nods decisively, ready to take charge of the process. Wuxuan-gu curls his lips into a vile grin, his eyes glittering with greed. In his hands, Hinadan, an ancient energy-sucking artifact, materializes. An ideal tool for this situation, but requires caution. As soon as he activates the artifact, his body is enveloped in a dense energy cocoon. Li Xiangui watches this with a satisfied expression. Thor Zhao tries to draw the director's attention to what is happening, but he only nods calmly. He notes that Chu Tianyi is still stronger even without such tricks. Indeed, he sits motionless, but the energy around him thickens to a visible haze. The director shrugs. Let Wuxuan-gu use all available means. He then points his gaze at Lin Yuan, whose potential is also impressive. The young man sits to the side, his movements smooth and precise in managing the energy. He masterfully directs energy flows, creating complex patterns. At first, Thor Zhao thinks that the guy is not succeeding. The director suggests that he take a closer look. The teacher's eyes widen in shock as he realizes what he's seeing. Lin Yuan's energy absorption speed is so fast that it creates the illusion of inaction. He literally creates an energy vacuum around himself. It seems like everyone has their own secrets, and Lin Yuan is no exception. The main thing is that he is progressing, and the rest is not so important. Li Xiangui narrowed his eyes, truly interested in the boy for the first time. Even the vice-rector cannot hide his surprise at the protagonist's skill. Suddenly, there was a crunching sound, and Wu Xuangu clenched his teeth until it hurt. His body arches unnaturally, as if he were being torn apart from the inside. All those present turn their attention to him with alarm. It is clear from his face that he is experiencing inhuman pain from an excess of energy. After a few agonizing seconds, his body finally relaxes. Breathing becomes even and awareness appears in the eyes. Now he reaches the 6-star beast level. Even Chu Tianyi was now inferior to him in terms of energy absorption speed. Wu Xuangu cast a triumphant glance towards Lin Yuan. At first, it also seems to him that he is making virtually no progress. But he soon realizes that the situation is much more complicated than it seems. Lin Yuan absorbs energy at a frightening speed, almost imperceptible to the eye. Wuxuan-gu initially thinks that the boy is also using Hinadan. It just means that he needs to work even harder to surpass his opponent. 3 powerful energy flows from different crystals mix in one place. Wu Xuangu's eyes flashed with purple lightning, his body trembling from the excess of power. He makes another push, causing his energy to pulse with even greater intensity. Suddenly, a stream of blood comes out of his mouth, but he doesn't stop. The director remains calm, knowing that Li Xiangui will not allow his nephew to die. The senior vice-rector approaches and sternly asks who authorized such a dangerous absorption of energy. Wu Xuangu can't accept that Lin Yuan is faster than him. Li Xiangui frowned, for he gave Hinadan for strengthening, not for stupid competition. Lin Yuan had absorbed a huge amount of energy, but his strength level had not changed outwardly. The young man just sits to the side, his face calm and focused. I wonder what heights he can reach with such potential. Uncle sharply pulls Wu Xuangu back, reminding him of his priorities. Meanwhile, Chu Tianyi continues to methodically improve his technique. The other students are also immersed in training, each in their own way. Even the great red tiger is straining all his strength to raise his characteristics. The director watches them with quiet pride. 2 days pass, and most students show noticeable progress. Thor Zhao approaches Lin Yuan to ask about his lack of progress. The question takes the young man by surprise. He even flinches slightly. His answer that he forgot to pump up leaves the teacher shocked. In a firm voice, Lin Yuan orders Xiao Heilong to activate the enhancement. Instantly, an orange glow flares up around him, and energy begins to bubble. Thor Zhao freezes, amazed at how his student controls such power. It turns out that Lin Yuan had accumulated enough evolution points to reach the 8-star level. Wuxuan-gu smirked as he watched this from the side. He believes that such a sharp increase in power will inevitably lead to instability. The director nods proudly, impressed by the young man's achievements. Finally, it's time to head to the hotel to rest before the tournament. Yanjin University rented luxury apartments for its participants. Su Mushu suggests that Lin Yuan and Wang Jin have dinner together later. Their attention is drawn to a noise from the other side, and new guests enter the hall. These are students from other universities who came to the tournament. The first to go are representatives from Yanjin University. Leading the way is Cheng Longsheng himself, a living legend among the participants. Next to him walks a gloomy Xu Xiao, his aura oppressive even from a distance. Wuxuan-gu decides to take the initiative and comes over to introduce himself. He extends his hand and introduces himself, trying to look confident. To everyone's surprise, Cheng Longsheng shakes his hand in a friendly manner. However, his grip is so strong that Wu Xuangu's bones crunch. He barely holds back a grimace of pain, but quickly frees his hand. He laughs nervously, trying to save face. Xu Xiao doesn't even look in his direction, ignoring his attempt at introduction. This behavior made Wuxuan-gu frown. He decides that the team captain is too arrogant. Cheng Longsheng apologizes for his comrade, but there is no remorse in his voice. Songlan approaches and asks where the opposing team is heading. They plan to visit the nearest arena to learn from other participants. Torjao politely but firmly reminds them to register first. Meanwhile, a real massacre is unfolding in the training arena. All the students who arrived on time managed to witness a breathtaking spectacle. In the center of the arena stands a giant panda, the embodiment of the spirit of Chenjushan. Lin Yuan asks with interest who his opponent is. It turns out to be Fang Qi, whose beast form is a huge red monkey with unnaturally long limbs. The monkey rapidly accumulates energy in its palms, creating fiery spheres. With a roar, he lunges forward, his fists blazing with scarlet flames aimed straight at the panda. Chenjushan does not retreat, taking a stable fighting stance. At the last moment, he suddenly jumps up, dodging the crushing blow. Lin Yuan notes the high level of fighting skill of both opponents. The panda concentrates a strange pulsating energy in its paws. He throws a powerful straight punch forward, aimed straight at the monkey's chest. Fang Qi snorted in disdain, finding the attack too predictable. He deftly dodges, but at the last moment the blow still hits him. Blood spurts from the monkey's mouth as an energy wave passes through his body. The panda instantly returns to his stance, preparing for his next attack. Chenjushan unleashes a barrage of precise strikes on his opponent. Each blow finds its target. Fang Qi turns into a puppet, twitching under the blows. Wang Linghu, watching the fight, is amazed by the panda's skill level. Chenjushan demonstrates the perfect balance of defense, attack, and speed. His combat gloves are clearly an artifact of incredible power. Wang Jin explains in a whisper that they are able to absorb the opponent's energy and life force. Suddenly, Fang Qi activates a hidden technique, sending Chen flying with a powerful impulse. The panda slides backwards across the arena, sparks of static running through his fur. When the yellow smoke clears, the monkey appears to the audience in an enlarged size. No one expected that Fang Qi had mastered a secret technique of this level. Obviously, he deliberately hid this trump card until the last moment. Techniques like these are truly invaluable in the world of martial arts. The Raging Flame technique gives him a real chance to turn the tide of battle. Fang Qi roars and attacks the panda with a series of crushing blows. However, Chenjushan shows incredible agility, dodging every attack. This clearly surprises Fang Qi, who is used to easy victories. There's a moment of confusion, and he takes a counterpunch right to the jaw. Chenjushan immediately delivers another blow and completely disorients the enemy. The fire monkey becomes enraged, its eyes turning bloodshot. But a moment later, she flies back, falling with a crash onto the arena floor. Chenjushan folds his hands in front of his chest, catching his breath. Wang Linghu remarks that Fang Qi could have won if he had used his technique earlier. The image of the panda gradually dissipates, revealing a human figure. Chenjushan looks at his defeated opponent with bewilderment. The judge declares him the winner, but the fighter himself behaves strangely. He looks more puzzled than triumphant. Wuxuan Gu sarcastically remarks that Lin Yuan wouldn't last even a minute against such an opponent. Su Muxue turns around abruptly, ordering him to shut up. Wuxuan Gu continues to mock, calling Lin Yuan a waste of time for Chenjushan. Su Muxue jumps up, but Lin Yuan gently stops her with his hand. She looks at him in bewilderment, not understanding his calmness. Lin Yuan only calmly glanced towards Wu Xuangu. Wang Jinze confidently states that Lin Yuan will definitely fight Chenjushan. Chu Tianyi suddenly stands up, declaring his desire to fight the panda. His eyes burn with cold determination. He cannot afford to lose, because the stakes for the team's honor are too high. Wuxuan Gu volunteers to take the captain's place if he doesn't want to take risks. His face is distorted by a self-confident grin. Lin Yuan only smiles in response to this bravado. He doubts that Wu Xuangu can stand up to Chenjushan. However, such confidence makes one wonder whether he might be hiding something more. Wuxuan Gu enters the arena, introducing himself arrogantly to the audience. Chenjushan smiled happily, because he just wanted to fight with the representative of Mo University. In the blink of an eye, he turns back into a giant panda. Wuxuan Gu licked his lips in anticipation, his eyes sparkling. His body begins to transform, taking the form of a giant centipede. The hall explodes with exclamations of surprise, because such an avatar is truly a rare sight. Its poison is very, very dangerous, and therefore it is not clear who will win in a fight. It immediately begins to secrete a large amount of purple toxin. The panda creates a barrier of green clots of energy in front of itself. This artifact is extremely powerful, because it is the famous green bamboo armor. However, the poisonous mist of Wu Xuangu is increasingly affecting the enemy. The panda suddenly jumps into the air and swings his arm to strike, but the centipede jumps deftly and dodges the blow to its body. Wu Xuangu's skills had improved significantly, making him a formidable opponent. Panda realizes that his opponent probably has extra powers. At this moment, Wu Xuangu shoots out a multitude of purple projectiles from the air. Because of them, the panda's body is covered in a purple toxin. The centipede taunts its opponent while dominating him. Wang Jinze didn't even know that Wu Xuangu possessed such artifacts. They were probably given to him by his uncle, the vice-rector, Li Xiangui. A large amount of blue mist begins to appear around the panda. At first, Chen Zhushan even thinks that he will soon lose the fight. The silhouette of a flying centipede appears above him again. Now that the enemy has weakened, Wuxuan can reap the benefits of his efforts. The toxin that enveloped Chen Zhushan's body was not easy to deal with. However, the panda is not going to surrender to his enemy. At this moment, Wu Xuangu wraps himself around his opponent's body. Songlan looks at the arena in disbelief, not believing that Wu Xuangu has won. Lin Yuan thought it was too early to celebrate victory. It's funny to watch the comments from those who didn't dare to go on stage. Lin Yuan suggests that the upstart should diversify his time if he is so bold. The main character offers to bet on one of the opponents, and the winner will receive an artifact. The young man believes that Chen Zhushan will win. This argument surprises the owner of the demonic vine. However, he still decides to argue with the main character. He is confident that he will get a good level artifact without much effort. The Wu Xuangu toxin slowly penetrates the enemy's nervous system, but the owner of the panda soul refuses to give up. Wu Xuangu is surprised that his opponent is still moving. Suddenly, Chen Zhushan abruptly breaks his grip, freeing himself. He gathers his hands into fists, preparing to counterattack. With a sharp swing, the creature pounces on the huge centipede. This development of events shocks the wielder of the demonic vine sitting in the stands. Panda delivers blow after blow, beating Wuxuan. Scolopendra doesn't even believe that she can lose. He lunges at his opponent one last time, hoping to finish him off. Suddenly, the gloves on the panda's hands begin to glow green. The centipede launches a last desperate attack, putting in all its remaining strength. But the panda meets the blow with its chest, and the centipede's body breaks with a crunch. Chen Zhushan, without stopping, unleashes another blow. Wuxuan lets out a muffled cry of defeat, his voice filled with pain. In front of the panda's power, he looks pitiful and weak. Lin Yuan just nods calmly because he knew this outcome. Chen Zhushan returns to his human form, breathing heavily. He admits that he almost lost because of the poison. Wu Xuangu mutters through his teeth that his technique was not enough. Humiliated, he turns around and leaves, trying to maintain his dignity. At this moment, the deputy captain of Yanjin University quietly leaves the podium. No one noticed how he disappeared. He moved so quietly. Lin Yuan frowned, as he found this behavior suspicious. Suddenly, someone's hand falls on the deputy's shoulder. It was the team captain himself, Cheng Longxiang, who decided to put a stop to the prank. He recalls the director's order to avoid conflicts. The brute confidently approaches Chen Zhushan. Unexpectedly, he hands him a small lacquered box. The panda accepts the gift with confusion. Inside is a blue pill that neutralizes toxins. Such a gesture of true nobility amazes everyone. Chen Zhushan bows, promising a worthy fight in the future. Within half an hour, the poison's effect completely ceases. Two fighters take positions in the arena. The brute instantly focuses energy, his aura pulsating. He merges with his soul, a giant war elephant. Sparks of pure energy fly from the trunk. The power of this creature makes the audience involuntarily recoil. The Mo University team watches with bated breath as the battle begins. The remaining students are capable of rapidly rising to the heights of power. If the university team discovers their true path to power, even the gods will fall before them. Enlightenment is the key that breaks the shackles of weakness. The arena is a whirlwind of battle, where every blow decides fate. Chen Zhushan stands like a titan, ready to tear the enemy to shreds. The giant leg of the elephant monster falls upon him with the roar of the apocalypse. At the last moment, the panda erects a bamboo wall that flashes with emerald light. The blow of an elephant's hoof shakes the very fabric of reality. The universe is shaking from the resonance, releasing a wave of destructive energy. The shield cracks like crystal under the hammer of fate. The audience is stunned to realize that they are witnessing a battle of the titans. The shield explodes in a whirlwind of bamboo shards, unable to withstand Cheng Longxiang's power. Sharp fragments pierce the air, sparkling in the bloody light. The panda coughs up scarlet foam, its body thrown away like a splinter. She falls to the sand of the arena, leaving behind a furrow of defeat. The crowd is in a trance, because before them is a true monster from Yanjin. Wuxuan feels his illusion of self-grandeur crumble, for it is not a man who stands in the arena, but the embodied legend himself. Suddenly Chu Tianyi, the Beastmaster, appeared, challenging with cold fury. His eyes burn like coals, ready to incinerate anyone. Wang Linghu tries to hold back the captain, but in vain. Cheng Longxiang only smirked, eager for another bloody harvest. But Xu Xiao appears like a shadow, reminding us of the fragile truce. No one saw him appear, and it seems that he simply materialized out of the darkness. The students whisper, feeling the icy breath of danger. Xu Xiao hates these looks like knives in the back. They are playing with fire, risking the wrath of the director himself. Cheng Longxiang turns around, acknowledging the captain's authority without words. But the battle is inevitable. It is just postponed until the great tournament. Chu Tianyi froze, studying them like a predator about to pounce. If Xu Xiao could tame this beast, his strength knew no bounds. Lin Yuan clenched his fists, for the enemy was stronger than expected. He glances at Su Mu Shui, demanding an answer. She dodges like a shadow, whispering about the futility of fighting. Sheng would tear her apart like a kite. Lin Yuan felt that there was a steel fang hidden in her words. She definitely has something that will turn everything upside down. Her laughter rings like a blade, promising inevitable defeat. Song Lan notices the director approaching and her blood runs cold. The students jump up as if struck by lightning when he appears. The rivals bow their heads before the director as if before a storm front. Behind him appears Sudizi, the lord of Yanjin, whose shadow devours the light. Su Mushu disappears behind Lin Yuan like a frightened spirit. The young man understands that there is an old, festering wound hidden here. Director Wang offers formal praise, but there is steel in the air. Sudizi brushes off the words as if they were annoying flies. Lin Yuan sees the similarities, for the two are related by blood but torn apart by fate. The girl exhales the truth, cold as a blade between the ribs. There is a chasm between them, scorched by years of silence. The directors depart, leaving behind a trail of unspoken threats. Director Wang becomes a human shield, shielding the students from the poisonous gaze. Sudizi notices his daughter, and hellish flames flash in his eyes. The man's face distorts into a mask of insane anger. Director Wang turns around feeling rage seething. Lin Yuan stands like an impenetrable wall, shielding the girl with his body. The auras of the two alphas collide, sparking with invisible lightning. Sudizi turns away abruptly, suppressing the storm inside. His voice sounds like scraping metal as he tells you to forget this episode. But the question hangs in the air, because who is this worm that dared to stand in his way? Director Wang throws out a name as a challenge, that it is Lin Yuan, the spare one who has become a thorn in his side. Sudizi clenched his fists because such strength could not belong to a mere extra. The directors disappear, leaving behind an oppressive silence. Lin Yuan and Su Mushu leave as if running through a line of enemies. A pair of eyes, burning with black fire, are watching them from the stands. Wu Mengxuan gnashed his teeth, his face a mask of pure hatred. Lin Yuan feels the blow of the past. This ghost has returned for revenge. Now he is a predator among beasts, one of Heibei's chosen ones. The humiliation of seeing the ground slip from under Wu Mengxuan's feet comes to mind. The friends quicken their pace, not wanting to rekindle old enmity. Evening falls on the city like ashes after a battle. Lin Yuan washes away the tension. The water washes away blood red. He feels that it is time to break through to the 8th level, where monsters rule. After 2 days, the hotel lobby turns into a field of silent war. Lin Yuan and Wang Jinzi stand like strangers in a pack of predators. Su Mushu appears later, breaking the silence with a light step. Men's gazes dig into her like the claws of hungry animals. She whispers to Lin Yuan, her breath smelling of mystery. He answers briefly that he trained, grew, prepared for the slaughter. The girl's eyes flash with a scarlet fire of approval. Shadows rise behind the hero old enemies have come for their own. Wu Shengu estimates Lin Yuan's level to be 7th, no higher. Lin Yuan calmly declares that he has broken through to the 8th level. Wu Shengu and his entourage respond with skeptical smiles. For them, this is an obvious lie, not worth paying attention to. Even Su Mushu looks at the protagonist with distrust. The principal and 2 teachers appear in the hall, filling the space with authority. Director Wang encourages students to seize this opportunity without hesitation. Today, they must show everything they are capable of. The crowd gradually moves towards the arena, like a river towards the ocean. The principal of Yanjin University calls the freshmen, his voice booming like thunder. He represents his team with pride, as if displaying jewels. The Mo University team follows, followed by the rest. Beihang University is headed by a boy who looks more like a child. Lin Yuan was perplexed, seeing in front of him someone who was clearly not a student. Wang Jin explains that this is Han Yantong, a rare genius. The innate animal soul manifests itself in only a few people before the age of 18. Such creatures are superior to ordinary people from the very moment of birth. He's only 14, but he's already on level 8 as a monster. The child exerts pressure that makes others tense up. With him, Beihang University can claim victory. Lin Yuan is surprised that such talent was not picked up by top schools. Han Yantong clearly lived only for training, without a childhood. His strength is such that he does not need guardianship. The teams exchange formal greetings, hiding the tension. The director talks about the burden of responsibility on the shoulders of the new generation. They must become the ones others will follow. Their strength will grow every day like the tide. They are the ones who will build a future where humanity will survive. Confidence will become their weapon in the fight for a place in the sun. It's time to learn the rules of the upcoming tests. The competition will begin immediately after the briefing. 3 stages await the participants: team battle, arena fights, and a battle for survival. The final part will take place in the Longgushan Mountains, on the border of Yanjin. Lin Yuan had never heard of this place. Wang Jin explains that the Black Dragon, the enemy of humanity, fell there. One blow of his tail was enough to wipe a city off the map. Lin Yuan imagines this destructive power and feels uneasy. The dragon's name was Nidhogg, a name that became synonymous with horror. Black magicians called him from the west to sow chaos in China. Now his bones rest in the Longguhuan Mountains, poisoning the earth. In the depths of the mountain, there still live creatures that surpass human understanding. Lin Yuan asks about possible traces of radiation in those areas. Wang Jin replies that over the centuries, any traces should have disappeared. However, the protagonist hopes to discover residual radiation that can strengthen his body. Each team member will receive points for survival in the mountains. Destroyed monsters will bring additional points that will decide the outcome of the competition. Some students begin to doubt their abilities and feel fear. Su DZ is looking forward to the spectacle of the upcoming test. Participants are assigned to random locations on the outskirts of Yanjin. There is no point in hiding, because the rules allow fights between students. Some students consider this format a senseless risk. Wu Moxuan is internally jubilant as he plans to deal with Lin Yuan. The organizers give the command to prepare for departure. Participants gradually take their places in the vehicles. Su Mushui assures Lin Yuan of her support. She is ready to protect him to ensure their common victory. Lin Yuan nods silently, accepting her proposal. A man in a security uniform enters their car. He introduces himself as Cheng Shui, the man responsible for their protection. Students should contact him immediately if a threat arises. He hands out special watches that record monster kills and call for help. Staff will arrive if the danger is imminent. Cheng Shui orders everyone to blindfold themselves during the journey. This will eliminate the possibility of remembering the route and positions of other participants. Lin Yuan asks a clarifying question. He's interested in who gets credit for killing monsters, the university or a specific team. Cheng Shui reassures them that they are the only ones who will get the points. This information brings relief among students. They are blindfolded and plunged into darkness. The transport goes deeper into the mountainous terrain. Lin Yuan unconsciously tapped his fingers on his knee. Cheng Shui notices this, but doesn't pay attention to it. The car continues to move along the winding roads of Longshan. Lin Yuan counts down the 7 hours of travel. Suddenly, Cheng Shui grabs one of the students by the hand. Without further ado, he throws Wang Linghu out of the car. Lin Yuan hears the noise, realizing that it is not his companions. The car stops abruptly. The driver does this deliberately to confuse the count of landmarks. Lin Yuan realizes that it is soon his turn to leave the transport. The employee touches his shoulder, advising him not to strain himself. Then a sharp push sends the young man's body to the side. He is thrown out of the back of the truck onto the ground like a sack. Lin Yuan tumbles several times before stopping. He immediately rips off the blindfold. Su Muxie was supposed to be dropped off somewhere nearby. Time is against him. Danger is near. Lin Yuan activates the fusion with the beast soul, feeling a surge of evolution points. The radiation here is weak but constant, gradually increasing. The deeper into the forest, the stronger the radiation, and therefore its power. You need to find your friends, namely Su Mushui, Song Lan, and Wang Jinzhe. The girl is first in line. She should be closer than the others. 10 minutes of fast running through the thicket. He reaches the point where Su Mushui is expected to be. A close inspection reveals tracks leading deep into the forest. Fox paw prints, clearly left in animal form. The path is clear. We need to follow the tracks. The nine-tailed fox does not hide its presence. Suddenly, a familiar voice is heard. It's Su Mushui, her scream breaking the silence of the forest. 3 animals surrounded her at the edge of the forest. All 3 are clearly under the control of powerful opponents. Even at full strength, she won't be able to cope with them alone. A group of people are watching what is happening. This is the Haiyu squad assessing the situation. They are hesitant about whether to intervene. But in this battle there are no allies, only enemies. Lin Yuan himself keeps an eye on the squad, remaining in the shadows. He understands that they will decide to finish off the weakened fox. The 3 beasts form a tight circle around Su Mushui. She takes a fighting stance, preparing for the final battle. A flick of the tail sends a hail of ice needles flying at the enemy. Cerberus responds with 3 fire spheres from his mouth. Flames burst out to meet the ice. The elements collide, creating clouds of steam. A furious fight begins between the fox and the hellhound. The poisonous frog joins the attack. A black stench escapes from her mouth, poisoning the air. The fox jumps away from the poisonous cloud. Drops of poison burn through the ground, leaving smoking craters. The girl understands that the escape routes are cut off. Defeat is unacceptable. We must find Lin Yuan at any cost. The young man does not intervene for now, watching as Su Mushui holds the defense. A new monster suddenly attacks the girl from behind, trying to finish her off. She miraculously manages to parry this insidious blow, but the claws still leave bloody streaks on her skin. Her eyes burn with determination despite the pain. She counterattacks, digging her claws into the enemy. An icy aura binds the attacker's limbs. Su Mushui takes advantage of the moment to make another swift dash. Lin Yuan notices how much her strength has increased. A new cloud of poison envelops the space around the fox. She tries to dodge, but the poison still reaches her muzzle. In response, she releases a massive block of ice. Jumping back, she regains her distance. Observers are surprised that she destroyed her own ice protection. A new volley of ice spikes pierces the air. The spines dig into the poisonous frog's body, disabling it from the fight. The fox's face distorts into a victorious grin. Cerberus remains the most dangerous enemy. Black Panther bleeds out, incapacitated. Cerberus's 3 mouths spew forth a sea of flame. Sumushu attacks without waiting for another attack. But Cerberus deftly dodges the ice projectiles. As he gets closer, he fills the space around him with fire. The fox creates an ice barrier in an attempt to hold back the onslaught. The elements collide, creating clouds of steam. The girl staggers from the blow but remains on her feet. Her breathing quickens, but she doesn't give in. The leader of Hayushu notes her unexpected strength. She single-handedly defeated 2 master-level beasts. The squad decides to intervene before it is too late. We need to act quickly before it gets any worse. One of them turns into a giant, deadly scorpion. Sumushu realizes that now is not the time for new enemies. 2 fighters begin to surround her, cutting off her escape route. The jellyfish shoots out electric shocks. Its tentacles entangle the fox, restricting its movements. Electric discharges penetrate the girl's body. She loses her mobility, trapped in a death trap. Sumushu writhes in unbearable pain as she is hit by electricity. The poisonous scorpion points its sting straight at her. The girl grits her teeth and calls her attackers despicable creatures. It seems that this is the end, and she can no longer get out of this trap. Suddenly, Lin Yuan flies out from the bushes, rushing into the fight. The dagger of one of the beasts plunges into his body. The poison should paralyze his movements and deprive him of his strength. But Lin Yuan continues to stand, protecting Sumushu. The monster realizes that he was unable to penetrate his defense. Lin Yuan smirked as he looked at the enemy's pitiful attempts. They are too weak, and he will tear them to pieces. Once they decide to attack, let them prepare for defeat. One of the attackers swallows nervously, sensing danger. Lin Yuan attacks, throwing him into the air like a rag doll. The monster turns back into a human on the fly. The rest of the squad is in a panic. Their captain is defeated. Sumushu is finally freed from the electric shackles. Now she has to be careful not to fall into the trap again. Cerberus still poses a threat, ready to fight. It seems he is eager to burn in the flames of Lin Yuan's wrath. The young man spreads his arms wide, preparing to tear his opponent apart. Cerberus responds with a barrage of fireballs. They hit Lin Yuan but didn't leave even a scratch. His rage only grows, turning into a storm. He tears the Cerberus apart, leaving no chance. For the victory, he receives 2 golden chests with rewards. Such mining will bring many benefits. Lin Yuan turns to the Hayu squad, offering to surrender. Otherwise, they will suffer the same fate as Cerberus. They instantly turn back into humans. Lin Yuan suggests finding Wang Jinze first. Sumushu is amazed by his confidence and strength. Now he has truly become equal to the 8th level Beast Kings. Such a leap in power seems incredible. They head to the place where Wang Jinze should be, but he is nowhere to be seen. Lin Yuan notices a strange detail on the tree. The barrel is carved with the symbol of their academy. Using these marks, they will be able to follow their friend's path. Sumushu picks up traces of the beast's soul leading deep into the forest. The traces turned out to be small, barely noticeable. Lin Yuan hears a strange sound coming from the direction of the tracks. The source is most likely Wang Jinze. Among the trees, a huge egg can be seen, surrounded by dinosaurs. Sumushu and Lin Yuan rush towards him. The dinosaurs turn their heads, noticing the two approaching. Lin Yuan doesn't understand where this egg came from. A face appears on the shell, addressing them as friends. It turns out to be the spirit of the beast Wang Jinze. He asks for help in the fight against dinosaurs. Lin Yuan gathers a clot of energy in his mouth. Several dinosaurs tremble in fear upon seeing this. They run away, leaving the egg alone. Lin Yuan sees them off with a deafening roar. He is surprised that such unusual animal souls exist. The egg looks strange, but its defenses are impressive. Although Lin Yuan is confident that he can smash it with one blow. Sumushu laughed quietly as she watched this scene. Lin Yuan decides to test his strength and swings. He hits the egg with all his might, trying to damage the shell. To everyone's surprise, there is not a scratch left on the surface. Lin Yuan couldn't believe his eyes. Wang Jin teases him, asking him to try again. Lin Yuan swings again, his claws filling with energy. This blow would be enough to incinerate an ordinary enemy. The egg does not break, but flies between the trees. Lin Yuan breathes heavily, trying to regain his strength. Sumushu asks Wang Jinze how he is feeling. The owner of the egg did not receive the slightest injury. He continues to tease, calling Lin Yuan's attacks weak. Then he suggests stopping the jokes and finding Songlan. Lin Yuan admits that he forgot its location. He suggests moving further into the forest. It's safer there, because most students stay on the outskirts. It is also worth avoiding encounters with dangerous mountain monsters. The radiation here is stronger, which will accelerate the growth of Lin Yuan's strength. 6 hours pass unnoticed. The team does not encounter a single monster on their way. They are approaching their destination. There is not much left to go. The test organizers are watching all this from a drone. The competition is broadcast live for all viewers. Lin Yuan had better not reveal all of his abilities in order to maintain his advantage. Both directors of prestigious universities are closely monitoring his actions. Sudiza mentions that it was not easy to persuade his daughter to participate. Director Wang reassures him by reminding him that his son is also on the team. He'll be fine, since Tor Zhao himself gave him a recommendation. As night falls, the group sets up camp in a cave. Wang Jinzi prepares a delicious dinner for everyone. It will get cold at night, so they stock up on firewood and water. Wang Jin and Sumusyug notice that Lin Wen's strength has increased significantly. He laughs it off, claiming that they just imagined it. Soon the two of them leave the cave for a short time. Lin Wen orders Xiao Heilong to open all the chests. Inside are evolution points and an artifact that attacks the enemy's soul. Also found among the loot is a rare Beastmaster cheat code. There are 9 such books in total. Lin Wen immediately decides to study this subject. He sits in a meditation pose, concentrating the energy around himself. The spirits of the ancient beast master surround him, passing on knowledge. Within a short time, he feels a huge increase in wisdom. He can't wait to test his new skills in combat. While the drones are not watching, he activates the fusion with the beast's soul. The enraged tiger effect temporarily increases his power several times. Lin Yuan examines the new claw that has appeared on his paw. He makes a few trial swings, assessing the weapon. The difference in power becomes apparent immediately. Now he will be able to deal with enemies much easier. This effect will last for about 30 minutes. This is just the first of 9 skills. The rest will make him invincible. Dawn is gradually breaking over the forest. The team discusses the lack of Lord-level beasts. On the one hand, this is good because there is less threat. Suddenly, Sumu Xue pointed at something behind her in horror. Wang Jinzi turns his head, trembling. Directly in front of him, 2 huge burning eyes are visible. A few steps away stands a massive beast of incredible size. In a panic, the young man instantly activates the fusion. He turns into an egg whose shell withstood Lin Yuan's blow. The monster immediately attacks with all its might. The egg is torn from its place and flies away from the powerful blow. The thick shell suddenly cracks under pressure. Sumu Xue jumps to her feet, overcome with worry for her comrade. A huge paw comes down with a roar, shaking the ground. A giant 2-headed monster appears before them. Both instantly activate fusion with the souls of beasts. The snow fox takes a deep breath of frosty air. Her exhalation turns into an icy wall in front of the monster. Lin Yuan raises his claws, flashing with deadly sharpness. His blow hits the monster with destructive force. The monster roars in pain, opening its huge jaws. Lin Yuan watches the result of the attack with surprise. The seemingly invincible monster is pressed into the ground. It becomes clear that the lizard is trying to burrow into the ground. Stones fly into the air, scattering in all directions. Sharp shards fly straight towards the snow fox. She instantly creates an ice shield around herself. The ice shield materializes just before the collision. Some of the debris breaks through the shielding and continues to fly. The girl understands that she won't have time to dodge. At this moment, Wang Jinzi's rolling egg appears in front of her. It takes the blow at the last moment. We need to force the lizard to come out of its underground shelter. Lin Yuan orders everyone to retreat immediately. He does not explain the reasons, demanding unconditional trust. The transformed students take to their heels, but the lizard turns out to be a surprisingly fast pursuer. It turns out that retreat was only part of the plan. Lin Yuan suddenly turns around, his body bursting into flames. A blue glow emanates from the open mouth. A powerful beam of energy rushes towards the monster. The hit causes the monster to let out an inhuman scream. Sumu Hui immediately freezes the opponent in place. Lin Yuan jumps up for the finishing blow. Its spiked tail lashes out at the immobilized enemy. However, the lizard's armor remains intact. Lin Yuan guesses to attack the internal organs. He forcefully opens the monster's mouth, causing excruciating pain. Nuclear breath charges in his throat again. A deadly beam pours straight into the open mouth. The monster is torn apart from the inside by a powerful explosion. For the victory, Lin Yuan receives another golden chest. Friends realize that he alone is capable of killing a lord-level monster. The young man comes to his senses, his eyes burning with cold determination. After examining the loot, he estimates it at 20 million. Wang Jinzi felt a slight bitterness from his superior strength. Suddenly, the group discovers that their food supplies are missing. Traces of an unknown creature are visible on the ground. Lin Yuan offers to track down and punish the thief. Strange snorting sounds come from the bushes. The young man carefully pushes the branches aside. A tiny black lizard appears in front of him. The students are amazed by this unexpected discovery. The creature's cheeks suddenly swell. It spits out a fireball towards the group. Lin Yuan pushes Wang Jinzi aside. Then he abruptly moves Sumu Xue out of the line of fire. He himself manages to dodge at the last moment. The ball goes straight through the tree behind them. Such a powerful attack from a small creature surprises everyone. Sumu Xue looks at his friend anxiously, but he raises his hand, stopping her. The lizard runs up to his palm, sniffing it. Everyone watches this unexpected contact, fascinated. Wang Jin suggests that this is a rare species of creature. Lin Yuan carefully touches the lizard's nose. The creature immediately begins to purr with pleasure. It behaves as if it had known the boy for years. Such trust on the part of the monster amazes observers. Now the creature looks completely harmless. Lin Yuan suggests a relationship with Xiao Heilong, but it turns out that it was formed from absorbed energy. The group must decide the fate of the unexpected addition. Lin Yuan declares his desire to keep it for himself. If it becomes a threat, he will personally deal with the problem. The 7th day of trials begins. The lizard fully adapts to the team. The students give her the name Xiao Hong. There are 3 days left until the end. We need to hunt actively. The surveillance drone appears again near the cave. The question arises, what to do if Xiao Hong gets into the frame? People will definitely be shocked by what they see. Yanjing University is closely monitoring the team's activities. The council members stand frozen in amazement in front of their monitors. Principal Wang is asked why his students tamed the monster. Su Dizi orders the broadcast to be stopped immediately. Director Wang promises to talk to Lin Yuan about returning the creature. But the director of Yanjing demands that the problem be resolved urgently. The lizard's coloring is suspiciously reminiscent of a baby imperial dragon. A bead of sweat runs down Director Wang's face. 100 years ago, this dragon almost destroyed Yanjing. People are stronger now and can repeat the destruction. One teacher suggests not to rush into killing. Su Dizi clarifies that he was misunderstood. This is not a resurrected dragon, but a manifested crystal clot. Director Wang's eyes widen at this information. So far, these are just guesses, and the lizard looks harmless. But Yanjing's director insists on immediate action. Su Dizi decides to deal with the threat after the trials. Meanwhile, deep in the mountain lie ancient dragon bones. There is a cracked crystal lying next to them. A huge black lizard is moving in the cave. She carries fresh prey in her teeth. Her eyes glow with green energy, giving off power. Having abandoned its prey, the lizard disappears into the depths of the cave. She freezes in front of the cracked crystal. A moment later, a deafening roar is heard. The sound carries far, scaring away flocks of birds. The creature continues to roar, demonstrating its strength. The sky is suddenly filled with black smoke. The sunlight barely penetrates the veil. Wang Jinzi initially thinks it's a dream, but Lin Wen notices that the fog has long since enveloped everything around. Such anomalies do not just happen. The watch is behaving strangely, probably due to the influence of the magnetic field. This means that drones have stopped working too. Xiao Hong anxiously bites the hem of his pants. Lin Yuan reassures him, calling the fog harmless. Elsewhere, a team of 5 people had gathered at a mountain cliff. The demon vine wielder asks about the connection with the university. All checks show that the watch is not working. Students are afraid, thinking that they might die here. They should be careful until help arrives, as the monsters have become more active. Songlan worries most about Lin Wen and Chu Tianya. Wuxuan Gu mockingly states that the protagonist has already been killed. He sincerely considers him a complete loser. These words anger Wang Linghu, who slowly stands up. Other students try to reconcile the disputants because now is not the time for discord. But Wu Xuangu insists that the E-rankers got here through connections. They defeated all the monsters only thanks to Songlan. Without him, the team is doomed to failure. Wuxuan Gu is irritated by their uncertainty. He calls them pathetic nobodies. The students sigh tiredly, closing their eyes. Wang Linghu and Songlan decide to leave the cave. They believe that Lin Yuan is alive and well. Probably Su Muxue and Wang Jinze are also with him. Security has completed its initial investigation of the fog. It affects the magnetic field and interferes with technology. The military assumes that someone is controlling the monsters. Director Wang thinks that the fog was created by a high-ranking monster. Rescuers have already begun searching for the students. The military requested the help of 2 beast emperors. Directors Wang and Sudizi agree to help. One of the teachers is against their leaving, but they have to, because their children are in danger. Yanjing's director will not allow his daughter to be threatened. In the center of Longushan, the fog becomes thicker. Lin Wan has already defeated the 3rd monster in a day. He and Xiao Hong approach the defeated enemy. It seemed like it was a Beast Lord-level monster. Xiao Hong is not afraid of possible danger. He comes across a blue spiky crystal. A second later, he's already chewing it. This core was worth tens of millions. It would be a shame to lose it. Lin Wen takes away the crystal, forbidding anyone to eat anything. Suddenly, new monsters are heard approaching. The protagonist asks Xiao Heilong to strengthen him. Instantly, his strength increases several times. Wang Jin is amazed by his friend's new surge in strength. Su Miuka shouts at Lin Wen to be careful. Lin Yuan can hear a familiar voice coming from the fog. The fiery tiger Wang Linghu materializes in front of him. Songlan appears nearby in the form of her avatar. It turns out that a lord-level monster is chasing them. Its silhouette resembles a giant pterodactyl. The monster's 2 heads exude a deadly threat. A massive bone spike protrudes from the creature's shoulder. Students must act carefully to avoid injury. The pterodactyl circles above them, choosing the moment to attack. His movements create strange energy waves. Lin Wen covers himself from the blows, but the waves penetrate his body. Painful energy discharges scatter throughout the body. In response, he activates his nuclear breath, aiming at the monster. The beam only slightly grazes the pterodactyl's wing. Wang Linghu is amazed at how much Lin Yuan's strength has increased. The wounded monster falls down and Xiao Hong immediately runs up to him. The dragon's little face twists into a grimace. It spews out a powerful stream of flame that envelops the enemy. After making an attack, the lizard proudly returns to Lin Yuan. She cuddles up to him, wrapping her tail around his leg. Lin Yuan closed his eyes as if exhausted. He extends his paw to the little dragon. Then she gives him the crystal core, causing delight. The thought of teaching the dragon commands flashes through my head. Wang Linghu is surprised that Lin Yuan has such a pet. Moreover, a pet capable of large-scale destruction. Soon all 5 students gather together. They discuss Wuxuangu's behavior and his insults. Sumu Xue asks how things were going for them. Songlan reports about hordes of monsters and a catastrophic situation. Suddenly, Lin Yuan senses danger approaching. The ground beneath our feet cracks and opens up. An earth lizard, similar to the one defeated earlier, emerges from the hole. Wang Jinzi instantly turns into an egg. Wang Linghu manages to notice the unusualness of this beast's soul. The monster rushes at the group with a roar. Flocks of birds attack with him, and also wolves moving as a single organism. Countless creatures attack from all sides, but Lin Yuan did not flinch, accepting the unequal fight. All team members begin to act in a coordinated manner, joining forces to defeat the attacking monsters. Their combined attacks are devastating, dealing significant damage to opponents. Wang Linghu swiftly cuts through enemies with his huge claws, leaving only bloody traces in his wake. Each member of the group gives their best, trying to destroy as many monsters as possible. However, it seems that the number of monsters is not decreasing despite all efforts. Lin Yuan carefully examines his bloody claw, which has already taken the lives of dozens of creatures. He skillfully moves between enemies, dealing deadly blows one after another. He manages to literally tear monsters apart, demonstrating terrifying power. After the recent buff, fighting has become much easier. Deep down, he even feels a strange satisfaction from this bloody massacre. Sumushe watches this with genuine horror. At this moment, another earth lizard rushes to attack the group. Lin Yuan turns towards him with lightning speed, preparing a deadly strike. He activates nuclear breath, aiming to destroy the maximum number of enemies. Under the influence of destructive energy, the lizard practically evaporates into thin air. For a moment, the young man is visited by an alarming thought that killing has begun to give him pleasure. When he wakes up, he finds himself standing on a mountain of torn bodies. The remaining monsters look around the battlefield in horror. Suddenly, a shrill sound was heard, attracting Lin Yuan's attention. Hearing it, all the small monsters run away in panic. This behavior is completely at odds with the young man's expectations. Sumushu looks up and gestures for his comrades to do the same. Deep in the fog, they see a bright, pulsating light. It soon becomes clear that the source of the light is the huge eyes of an unknown monster. Wang Linghu can hardly comprehend how big this creature must be. The giant silhouette gradually approaches, becoming clearer and clearer. A colossal black reptile with glowing red eyes appears before them. Against this background, the students look completely helpless. Wang Linghu, backing away, suggests that they run away immediately. But Lin Yuan understands that it is impossible to hide from a monster of the Emperor level. Songlan notices that the monster is staring intently at the protagonist. Then the guy realizes the possible reason for such attention. All this time, the little dragon Xiao Hong was sitting on Lin Yuan's shoulder. It becomes obvious that a battle with this giant is inevitable. The monster opens its mouth wide, revealing rows of deadly teeth. A second later, he begins to greedily suck in the surrounding black fog. Wang Linghu covers his body, trying not to get caught in the deadly funnel. Soon, the monster exhales a concentrated cloud of poisonous mist directly at the students. The destructive mass is rapidly approaching them. At this moment, Lin Yuan's chest suddenly flashed with a bright blue glow. Lin Yuan mobilizes all the energy accumulated in the crystal, directing it against the monster. There is a glimmer of hope in his heart that this will be enough to win. A blinding flash makes him turn away, covering his eyes with his hand. He sees a colossal energy clot flying towards him and understands his powerlessness. Xiao Hong watches the events calmly, showing no fear. His cheeks puff out and he releases a powerful stream of flame. Sumu Seug decides to intervene by joining the attack. Unexpectedly for the monster, they launch a counterattack. Different elements mix in a deadly cataclysm. The roar of the explosion deafens everyone, and dust covers the battlefield. Lin Yuan breathes heavily, hoping for victory. Another such attack from the enemy will be fatal for them. A new roar echoes across the valley, destroying the last hopes. The monster stands unharmed, as if the attack only angered it. Xiao Hong suddenly rushes forward, attacking the giant. His swift strike causes the dragon to stagger. To everyone's surprise, he manages to pierce the scales, causing bleeding. In response, the dragon opens its mouth, releasing tentacles. Lin Yuan orders the others to flee, preparing for a lonely battle. Xiao Hong looks at him with a frightened look. The young man cannot allow the dragon to take his pet. He refuses to betray his little ally. Su Muaka declares that she will support any decision he makes. The rest of the team expresses solidarity, demonstrating true friendship. Lin Yuan glances at his comrades. With renewed vigor, he calls on everyone to attack. They join forces for a decisive blow. Wang Linghu powerfully pushes off the ground, flying into the air. His furious attacks rain down on the dragon. Blood gushes from the monster's mouth after these blows. The entire team concentrates its forces for the final onslaught. Lin Yuan looks at the blue crystal in his paw. It turns out to be a nuclear reactor that was purchased earlier. Now he feels he has enough strength to win. He is ready to protect everything that is dear to him. Having absorbed the reactor, it causes panic among the allies. His limbs grow larger, changing shape and color. The spines on the back lengthen, becoming blood red. On the battlefield, a true monster is born, the herald of the apocalypse. His body is engulfed in flames, enveloping every muscle. Two gigantic creatures clash in a deadly battle where there is no room for mercy. The outcome of this confrontation will decide who will remain standing on the battlefield. The crimson spikes on Lin Yuan's back lengthened even further, becoming like bloody blades. Its gaping mouth emits a blinding light, as if it contained an entire star. The allies cannot believe the transformation of the young man, witnessing the birth of a true monster. The sky lights up with a flash that eclipses the sunlight, a wave of energy spreading in all directions. A devastating beam bursts out from the open mouth, rushing straight towards the black dragon. For the first time, real horror appears in the eyes of the giant lizard. Deadly energy pierces his body, leaving a horrific wound. Clouds of crimson smoke rise into the sky, their temperature capable of incinerating all living things. Even after receiving a mortal wound, the dragon does not intend to retreat. His rage only increases. Songlan orders the others to retreat, while remaining behind to support Lin Yuan. It activates a rare support skill designed to strengthen allies. A stream of pure energy rushes towards the transformed youth. Lin Yuan felt a surge of strength, mentally thanking his comrade. In response, the dragon spews out a poisonous cloud, concentrating it into a deadly ball. The poisonous clot flies straight towards Songlan, threatening to dissolve him alive. On impact, the ball breaks into hundreds of burning fragments. Lin Yuan manages to put his giant paw forward, taking the blow on himself. Songlan realizes that the being in front of him has reached the level of a beast emperor. A furious hand-to-hand fight ensues, with every blow shaking the ground. The spectacle of two titans fighting leaves observers in awe. The dragon sank its teeth into Lin Yuan's arm, causing a fountain of blood to appear. In response, the young man once again charges his mouth with destructive energy. For a moment, animal fear can be seen in the dragon's eyes. He jumps back sharply, trying to avoid a direct hit. Trying to regain his strength, the dragon begins to absorb the surrounding fog. Two colossal forces collide in a confrontation that could destroy everything around them. A blinding yellow flash illuminates the area, causing everyone to close their eyes. Su Mushu instinctively closes her eyes, shielding herself from the bright light. Opening them, she anxiously looked for Lin Yuan in the chaos. Before her appears a picture of a battle of incredible scale. Lin Yuan still stood, his body radiating incredible power. The snow fox smiles, believing that her chosen one has won. But her hopes are dashed when the silhouette of a black dragon appears from the mist. Lin Yuan is shocked, thinking that the enemy should have been defeated. The crystal's effect is running out. We can't give the enemy a chance to recover. Without thinking, the young man releases another destructive beam through the veil of fog. A bizarre multicolored haze appears, absorbing all types of energy. Songlan watches his ally with concern, realizing that the battle has reached its climax. Songlan deduces that the opponent is able to absorb attacking energy, becoming stronger with each strike. It turns out that Lin Yuan's attacks only strengthened the monster. The only reasonable way out is to try to escape from such a powerful enemy. The purple haze around the egg begins to pulsate and cracks appear on the surface. This contradicts all known laws of evolution. The process occurs unnaturally quickly. However, the shell continues to break down, releasing the black lizard from its cocoon. Lin Yuan realizes that there is no time to retreat and prepares for the last battle. From the crumbling egg emerges the silhouette of the very monster that was thought to have been defeated. His body is now adorned with massive orange spikes that emit an ominous glow. Lin Yuan notices the creature's uneven breathing and unhealed wounds. Now their enemy has reached the level of the Emperor, becoming even more dangerous. Its destructive power surpasses all previous indicators. The dragon begins to spew purple clots of energy towards Lin Yuan. Powerful blows force the young man to cover himself with his hands, but the defense proves useless. Blood is gushing out of his mouth, something that has never happened before. This is the first time he has been injured so seriously. He tries to deceive Songlan by claiming that everything is fine. At this moment, Xiaohong jumps onto his shoulder. Lin Yuan is surprised because he wanted to protect the little dragon from danger. He orders Xiaohong to run if he wants to survive. Deciding to give his all to the final attack, he prepares for the final blow. Su Mushu couldn't help but cry as she watched this scene. Wang Linghu extends his paw, trying to stop his comrade. Lin Yuan opens his mouth wide for the last time to attack. Memories of the last events of his life flash before his eyes. With a feeling of strange calm, he closes his eyes. Suddenly, everything freezes, as if time itself has stopped. The figures of directors Wang and Sudizi appear in the air. Their postures exude absolute confidence and unwavering strength. The power emanating from them seems truly limitless. The appearance of the rector radically changes the balance of power. Lin Yuan loses his monstrous form, returning to his human form. He falls down exhausted next to Xiao Hong, who stands anxiously nearby. The dragon's eyes widen, realizing the appearance of new opponents. Sumukhui rushes towards the unconscious youth in horror. Director Wang contemptuously calls his son a weakling for losing the fight. The students gradually gather around Lin Yuan. Director Wang is genuinely surprised by the level of power he has achieved. He turns to Sudizi, discussing the plan of attack. The director of Yanjin University was the first to rush into battle, because his daughter was under threat. Deadly energy concentrates around Sudizi, condensing into pulsating spheres. Students instinctively cover themselves, fearing an accidental hit. The black lizard freezes, realizing the threat posed by the new enemy. Sudizi's body transforms into a gigantic red dragon, shrouded in scarlet radiance. The difference in levels makes the lizard tremble, his body involuntarily shrinking in fear. In desperation, he tries to gather his last strength for the attack. A chaotic blast of energy erupts from its mouth, aimed at random. The red dragon dodges easily, its movements full of contemptuous grace. A haughty grin appears on Sudizi's face, demonstrating absolute superiority. Suddenly, the space around him erupts in hellish flames. The shockwave knocks the onlooking students off their feet. Now the lizard experiences the same pain that he inflicted on others. Panicked, he tries to escape, backing towards the nearest ravine. But he is not given a chance to be saved. The red dragon approaches, forming a perfect sphere of fire in its mouth. The sphere turns into an all-consuming firestorm. The lizard's body writhes in agony, gradually becoming charred. Sudizi is surrounded by a scarlet energy, indicating his power. For the directors, this fight is a mere formality. Wang Jinze watches the power of the Imperial Dragon in awe. Sumu Shui sat down next to Lin Yuan, her eyes full of tears. After finishing the massacre, Director Wang approaches Sudizi. Yanjing's director is pleased that his daughter was not harmed. Wang hints that Lin Yuan deserves gratitude for saving her. The young man sits motionless, his closed eyes and pale face indicating complete exhaustion. It's hard to believe that an E-ranker could fight on par with such a monster. Director Wang is confident that he is looking at a future star among the Beastmasters. A white helicopter with rescue insignia appears in the sky. Upon exiting, the soldiers report on the mission to evacuate all survivors. The group is taken to a safe place where they can finally catch their breath.